Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei becomes a Holy Knight of the Dragon Part 2. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Though support and follow the Nefarious Doctor for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Meliodas and the team are heading to where a rumor of a giant hammer is being given to the winner of a fighting tournament. Once they got to Visel, everyone was surprised when Meliodas told them that this town has a yearly fighting tournament and the winner is given a special reward for being the strongest. If Diane's hammer is truly here, then no matter what, we need to win it. Mono raised her hand. But wouldn't that mean that it's just a trap set up by the Holy Knights? Meliodas waved it off. We've dealt with them before and so far we're doing pretty good ourselves, so does anyone have any questions? Yeah, just one. What are we going to do about my clothes? Ban said sadly as his upper body was still shown to the world, but Meliodas just deadpanned. Just cover up with an apron. Anyone else? That's when a giant fist came down and punched the ground. Yeah, I do. It's not fair. Diane whined as she threw a tantrum. Why do I have to stay and watch the bar? Meliodas decided to break the news to her. I'm sorry Diane, but ever since a giant went on a rampage a few years ago, they've been banned from town since then. Elizabeth smiled as she looked at Diane and clasped her hands together. Why don't we girls and I stay here and have a chat with her? It would be nice to catch up on some girl talk. What do you say, Diane? Jericho and Lupus Regina decided to stay with them as well for two reasons. 1. People might recognize Jericho as a holy knight, and 2. Lupus Regina didn't want to enter the tournament and wanted to get the latest gossip. Mono almost slipped away, but Lupus Regina stopped her. Hold it. If any of the holy knights are here, then they'll recognize you in an instant. Mono went into a thinking pose. That's not good, but what if I stick to the shadows? Lupus Regina shook her head. No. Now come on, you can spend some time away from Issei for a few minutes, besides having some girl time would do you some good. Lupus Regina pulled her back to the bar, while Mono blankly stared where Issei went and reached out her arms innocently, as if to hug a relative. Issei made a calm down motion, and Mono nodded before giving in to Lupus Regina. Mono had stuck with the group and she actually warmed up to Issei rather quickly. This made Lupus Regina and Jericho a little jealous, but Issei calmed them down and might have spoiled her a bit, but Mono truly was touched by the warmth and kindness in him. She even enjoyed training with the whole team. So the guys, Meliodas, Ban, King, and Issei, made their way to town. Issei was checking out the stores and glanced at the necklace around his neck. The amber was a strange one considering for the past 3 nights it felt like he was talking to someone that resided in the amber. As he kept thinking about the person, he heard a voice call to him. Hey kid. Issei looked around and saw an old man behind a stall filled with jewels. He pointed to himself and the man nodded and motioned for him to come over. Issei walked to the stall and saw the jewels. There were many different kinds that went from diamonds, rubies, ambers, sapphires, and surprisingly another amber that was similar to the 3 around his neck. Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me what this is? The man looked around to see if anyone was watching him until he realized that he was alone. Listen to me, that amber is a cursed one. It's known in history as a goddess amber. This was used to seal away powerful demons or creatures of darkness, but according to legend, there were a group of 10 individuals who led the demon army. Issei was shocked but had to ask. What were they called? The man spoke. The 10 Commandments. Issei nodded and asked. So this amber has an extremely powerful dark entity inside of it. Cool. I'll take it. The man looked as if Issei was insane. Are you sure? This is a powerful one. Issei nodded. The man sighs and gives it to him. Normally, I wouldn't do this, but I believe you can fight this dark creature. Issei bowed. Thank you for trusting me. Issei walked away. The man transformed into a woman with short magenta hair that was in a bun. She wore glasses that somehow enhanced her beauty, along with a white shirt with grey long sleeves over a black crop tank top, as well as a pair of dark pants and short grey boots. She glanced at Issei's back and pondered aloud. Who are you and how do you know my friends? Issei was able to find Meliodas and the others as they saw a giant hammer in the cliff. That's Gideon, Diane's sacred treasure. Issei looked at the hammer and saw a brown-haired girl wearing what looks like an Amazonian armor, but definitely shy as she looked at the hammer. You're here. I remember when she wielded you. She touched the hammer's head. Don't worry, I'll win you. She smiles until she senses someone behind her. She turned and saw Issei. Ah. Who are you? Issei calmed her down. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. But did you know the wielder of this hammer? The girl calmed down a bit before she nodded. Yes. A long time ago, she saved my village and showed me how big the world was, including the beauty outside of my small village. That's when I decided to travel the world, but one thing held me back. My magical power frightens people and no one, besides my parents, have wanted to talk to me. They called me a monster, but I accepted my power, and even though it makes me crazy, I still want to defend the people, but not as a holy knight. You understand, don't you? Issei nodded. I'm the same. I was a normal human until I learned of my power one day, and at first I was scared of it because every time I used this power, it felt like a part of my human side was getting eaten away, little by little. She looked shocked. But I accepted it because I could use that power to defend the ones I love. I'll do anything to protect them, even if it meant becoming a monster. Issei looks at her. Don't be afraid of being yourself. Never forget that you control your power, it doesn't control you. He gets up and dusted himself off. I had a great time talking to you. I hope you are able to win, Gideon. By the way, what's your name? The girl smiles. Rin. My name is Rin. She extends her hand to him. Good luck to you as well. Issei shakes her hand. Thanks. Name's Issei. Pleased to meet you. The two walked away and smiled, knowing it would be fun to fight them. Meliodas and the others were in the fighting ring and waited until Issei joined in. Hey, where have you been? Picking up some chicks. Haha. Issei sighs but has a smile. Nah. Just talking to some girl that wants to see the world. A small man wearing a helmet and a red outfit walks to the field. Alright everyone, listen up. This is an elimination round. Everyone must try to knock the opponent out of the arena and the final 8 will be pitted against each other. No weapons allowed. Everyone went tense and prepared for the fight. Ready? Fight. The bell was hit. Everyone charged at each other trying to punch the other out of the ring. Meliodas was weaving around the opponents and knocked a few out of the ring. Ban was just casually kicking or punching the opponent out of the ring with an excited look on his face. Issei was using a person as a meat shield and pushed him with enough strength to take him and 10 others out of the fight, but no to kill them. There were a few others who stood out in the crowd. Rin was a bit passive but showed that she was no weakling. She flipped a few big guys right out of the ring by doing a couple of shoulder tosses for such a small girl with a frail frame. She's quick and quite good on her feet. Another girl that was fighting with a bored look on her face. She was around Issei's age and wore a white military uniform that showed her impressive bust and wore a hat on head. The most mesmerizing part of her was the long blue hair and her blue eyes that stared into your soul. The woman kicked anyone that came close to her and for some reason got really excited when she saw blood spill. There was a holy knight who was named Hoser. He was using wind-enhanced punches to take out more contenders, and there was a giant muscle head that was tossing aside anyone that came near him. King was accidentally sent out of the fight but was still in the fight due to his chastiful keeping him afloat. Eventually the final 8 were decided. The last ones still standing were Issei, Meliodas, Ban, King, Hoser, the blue-haired woman, Rin, and a woman named Matrona. The shrimp of a man took us into the meeting house and each of us put our names in. The shrimp took the names and shook them around so the drawing could be random. Alright, listen up. Everyone looked at him. Since we have 8 members, we'll be doing 4 battles, 2 battles, and then the final round. So without further ado. He reaches in and pulls 2 names. The first match will be Hoser versus Matrona. Matrona looks at Hoser and shakes his hand, while Hoser is excited for the fun fight. Hope we can have a fun fight. Likewise. The shrimp brought out the next matchup. For the next matchup, we have Rin versus Old Fart. King looked around and asked himself. Who would have a name like that? Anne came up behind him. Take 3 guesses. King looks at him shocked. What? Why you put my name down like that? Rin looks at the one that was called Old Fart and snorted from the joke. King looked depressed as a cloud appeared above his head. The next matchup was called. The third match, we have Bon versus Meliodas. The two looked at each other and were excited to fight each other. Issei pondered what a fist fight between the two sins would look like. The final matchup was called out. The final match will be Drake versus Yukiko. The blue-haired woman and Issei looked at each other and almost instantly the two wanted to fight each other and prove which one is the dominant one. I feel like I want to mate with her right now. The woman has similar thoughts. If he's strong and matches my requirements, then he'll be the perfect mate. The others saw this and did not want to get in the middle. Even the shrimpy guy was intimidated by their aura. Everyone made their way outside and Issei, along with Yukiko, were in the ring, staring the other down. The ringmaster didn't say anything because he didn't feel like dying right now. The first match will be Drake versus Yukiko. Remember, magic is allowed but no weapons. Besides that, anything is allowed. The two continued their stare down. Ready? They ready themselves. Fight. The bell was hit. The two ran straight towards each other and Issei threw a left punch that hit Yukiko in the face but sent her a few inches back. She wiped away some dirt on her cheek and spit out some blood. Very nice. Her fists were then encased in ice. Let's see how cold-blooded you really are. She ran toward him with speed that even he had trouble following. She gave him a right punch to the face and a left to the chest. Issei saved himself from getting thrown out by burying his fists into the ground. He got up and smiled. That won Yukiko over as she liked the smile that he had on his face. I want to see more of it. Yukiko and Issei ran to each other and tried to beat the other to submission as they kept exchanging punches. Issei hit Yukiko and Yukiko hit Issei. No matter how bloody they got, they just kept charging in and kept fighting like two warriors that wouldn't go down easily. Yukiko decided to kick things up a notch and covered her whole body in ice. You've impressed me. Allow me to explain my magical power, Heat Eater. I can absorb heat from the air around and convert it into energy so I can create ice. The ice is used for many things. Armor, weapons, even freezing my opponent's body from the inside. Issei was shocked and impressed by the power. Interesting. Allow me to explain my power. His shirt began to rip as he grew to perhaps 10 feet tall. Sunshine. As the sun rises in the day, my power continues to grow, so prepare yourself, Yukiko, because I won't be holding back. Yukiko was encased in icy armor with spikes and a dragon helmet on her head. I'm not holding back anymore either. Hope you're ready. She flew at him and grabbed him by the neck. Wings grew out of the armor and the two flew into the sky. Yukiko summoned ice spears and sent them to Issei to skewer him. Issei decided to no longer hold back and summoned his own wings. His entire body was encased with fire and it became fiery armor for him. He sliced the air in front of him and a wave of fire melted the ice spears that were sent his way. A mist spread throughout the sky. Yukiko cleared it but didn't see Issei until she felt someone grab her leg. She looked down to see an arm from Issei grab her leg and he threw her down to the ground. Yukiko got up and was missing some of the armor and her helmet was still standing but weakened by the impact. She spat out some blood and smiled. Not bad. Let's keep going. She absorbed more heat from the air and made more ice for her armor, but the heat was too much for her as Issei's power kept climbing and climbing even higher. Issei looked at Yukiko and decided to finish this fight. As a show of respect towards you, Yukiko, I shall use one of my personal finishers. She looked at him and smirked to herself. Not bad. Do it. Issei nodded and summoned a giant ball of fire in his right hand. Cruel sun. He launched it and Yukiko braced herself as she put up a giant ice shield and it held for a few minutes, but it broke and she was hit by the attack. Ooh. Everyone shielded their eyes as the bright blast covered the arena. When the dust settled, it was revealed that Yukiko was down on the ground and her uniform was slightly charred, revealing a little bit of her chest, and she had slight burns on her arms. The ringmaster saw this and decided to end the fight. The winner is Dreg. Issei lifted his fists in the air and roared before he looked at Yukiko and helped her up. He took her to a medical tent and placed her down on the cot. Thanks for a good fight. Let's do it again sometime. He gave her his signature smile and it was then that Yukiko knew she found her destined one. Yukiko grabbed Issei's sleeve and pulled herself up. Dreg. Can you come here please? Issei did so but wasn't expecting the tongue from Yukiko. The woman ate like it was the best thing in the world and tasted her mate's mouth. Issei fought back instinctively and tasted Yukiko's mouth. The two separated until he got up. You should rest and heal. By the way, my name's not Dreg. It's Issei. Issei Haidu. Yukiko smiles at him and says. Thank you my love. Issei smiles to her one last time before leaving the tent. Man, that was hot. He saw the commotion for the other match and decided to check it out. As he left the tent, he saw everyone cheering, booing as the next match was finished quickly. The winner is Rin. The Amazonian raises her left fist in the air and was excited that she won while King was being licked by his pet dog. Issei walked over to Meliodas and asked what happened. King was trying to make Rin lose by attacking her mind, but instead it backfired on him and made her angry, which resulted in him being sent flying out of the fight. Issei laughed at the summary of the fight, but then watched as both the wind-used Hoser and the mysterious girl named Matrona walk into the arena. The ringmaster voices before the fight start. Excuse me, but please remove that cloak. We need to make sure no weapons are being used. Rules are rules. She nodded and pulled off her cloak. Everyone gasped as they saw her attire. Issei's eyes widened. Is that? Meliodas nodded. That's a boar's hat employee uniform. Issei left the crowd and went to a secluded area. Once Issei knew he was alone, he activated a communication circle to contact Lupus Regina. Lupus, can you hear me? He waited a bit until he heard the reply from the Wirelity.yes, I hear you Issei. Issei sighs in relief. Can you tell me of a female warrior known as Matrona and why is she wearing one of the uniforms? This time Mono answered his question. That's because of an incident involving both Elizabeth and Diane. Don't worry, they're okay, but they went through a massive physical change. Issei's curiosity got the better of him and the question in the back of his head had to be asked. What do you mean by that? Lupus Regina snickers on the other side. Don't worry. It's nothing too bad, but on the other hand Jericho, Mono, and I have some news that you would be quite interested to hear. Issei liked interesting news and decided to indulge them. Go on. Jericho takes over. It would seem that there is another holy knight here along with another princess of lions. The princess is named Veronica Lyons, and the holy knight accompanying her is an old friend of Hoser's and Gilthander's named Griamore. He's actually quite infatuated with the princess. Issei approved of this info and asked, "What is Griamore's special magical power?" Mono answered for him. He calls it barrier. It allows him to create a barrier that protects him and others from harm, but it can only be strengthened or weakened by his will. Issei was impressed with the information, and he wouldn't let it go to waste. You believe that they are responsible for Gideon being the grand prize, and that this is all a giant trap to capture the 7 deadly sins? Jericho nodded. I do. Be careful. They probably have reinforcements with them just in case. Issei thanked her. I'll call back soon. I need to check on something. Keep a low profile. Oh, and Mono, can you do a stealth mission for me? Mono perked up on the other side. What do you need of me? Issei replied. Can you find information on the commandments from the demon clan? Mono nodded since she used to wield one of them. Of course. I'll get right on it. Issei thanked her before saying farewell to the girls. Lupus and Jericho responded. Understood, and be safe. The connection was cut off. Issei walked back to King and was surprised to see that the woman who was fighting as Matrona was actually Diane, using the name of an old friend of hers. She explained that she and Elizabeth were gathering ingredients and came upon a weird mushroom. The mushroom was scared and blew some spores on them. Next thing they knew was that they both shrunk, with Diane being around Elizabeth's height and Elizabeth being tiny. Hawk was keeping Elizabeth's innocence covered with a makeshift dress that he made with a little fabric. King told Issei that it was probably a chicken matango. They're well known for running away and releasing powerful spores that shrink anyone that's hit by them. Is it possible for one of these mushrooms to have a different power? King pondered and responded. Perhaps, but it's never been done before. Why do you ask? Issei shrugged his shoulders. Just curious. They looked back at the fight and saw Ban stealing Melioda's strength while delivering massive blows himself, and just as Ban was about to land the final blow, Issei sensed a dark presence. Ban was sent flying into the city and Hawk followed to bring him back. Drake, was that? Drake interrupts him. I believe it was. But I couldn't see Melioda's and what he did just now. There's no denying it. The power Slew sensed was demonic. Wait. Issei, the necklaces. Issei looked and saw 2 of the necklaces respond to the demonic power. Issei moved away from the crowd and used his aura to calm down the spirits that rested within the ambers. Relax. It's okay. The glow started to dim and eventually it was no longer glowing. Issei sighed in relief and pocketed the necklaces in his shirt. He sighs in relief before contacting Lupus Regina once more. Hey Lupus Regina, I need you to do me a huge favor. Lupus responded. What's up? I need you to find a certain creature for me. The mushroom that shrunk Elizabeth and Diane. I thought you would have asked, so I used a sleeping spell to capture 2 of them for you. I figured once you heard of them you wanted to try some experiments on them. Issei smirks. And that's why I love you. Any sign of Veronica or Griamore? Unfortunately, we haven't seen them. It's like they're waiting for something. Wait, hold on. Issei looked to the sky. Issei looks up and sees a creature in the sky moving at a fast pace. That's just a sky manta. They're completely harmless. Partner, hold on. I sense 2 life forms on that beast. One is that woman who attacked us in Necropolis, and the other is the man who wishes to kill Meliodas. Issei is shocked before realizing what their plan is. They're going to blow up the festival, and if any of the citizens die, they'll just pin it on the 7 deadly sins. He speaks to Lupus Regina, Mono, and Jericho. Listen to me. Get to Diane, King, Hawk, and Elizabeth. Get them out of there. Now. They're going to attack the arena. But the people. Jericho added in. They'll pin it on the 7 deadly sins. They don't care how many people die. As long as they get what they want. Issei, be careful, we'll try to. Hey wait, Lupus. Get back here. Damn it. I got to go. The connection was cut off. Issei was about to run back for the arena to warn the others until a voice startled him. Where do you think you're going? A tiny man wearing a giant suit of armor holding a pair of maracas walked to him along with Hoser. You're the one known as Issei. The one who's aiding the 7 deadly sins. By the decree of the Kingdom of Lions, I'm here to place you under arrest. Comply and we won't hurt you. Issei scoffed at this. Oh really? Says the ones who are going to kill these innocent people. Hoser's eyes widened. Hold on, that wasn't the plan. Issei pointed to the sky. Look up. Hoser saw the manta fly over the arena, and Gila prepared a large fireball, and Gilthander prepared a bolt of lightning. Hoser tried to reason with them. Wait, don't do it. There are still innocents down here. The fireball and lightning bolt struck the ground, causing a massive explosion, and many people screamed as some died in the explosion. Hoser was shocked because it was only supposed to be a simple mission where no innocents were harmed. The Tin Can Knight was fed up with this and walked toward Issei. "Let's see how you deal with this." He brought his maracas down and said, "Gravity X10." Issei felt a force push him down. Issei grunts under the pressure and summons his armor. "Drag." The dragon smirked in him and began. Boost. 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 Issei was able to stand as his power continued to rise even greater than the gravitational force. Hoser and the Tin Man were shocked by the power radiating from the boy, but then they were blown away by the shockwave of aurora that Issei released upon them. The pressure was gone, but a new sensation filled his chest. The necklaces that were tucked away in his shirt started to glow brightly. Issei pulls them out and says to them, "I don't know who you both are, but please lend me and my comrades your strength. This I swear on my title as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Lion Son of Pride." The jewels glowed as if the spirits hears him. "Now heed my call and serve me." The jewels begin to crack under the boosted power and the spirits trying to free themselves to serve their new master. "Help me end the darkness that plagues this world." The floodgates of power were unleashed. The jewels exploded and a massive burst of power filled the land. Elizabeth was shouting to the Amber for Meliodas to save her, and Hawk was beaten to a crisp. Diane and King were fighting with Griamore and Gilthander. Meanwhile, Lupus Regina and Jericho fought Gila and the newcomer Helbram. Lupus Regina felt this power and was shaking in fear. "What is this power?" Jericho and Gila couldn't breathe until the pressure started to simmer down as it disappeared. Helbram was shocked and wondered where it went. Back with Issei, the dark auras started to simmer and reveal themselves as 4 women. One of them was a woman with a mixture of black and magenta hair that flowed to the middle of her back. She was as tall as Jericho and had a purple eye and a red eye. Her attire made her look as if she was royalty. The other was a blonde-haired woman with short hair and wasn't wearing any clothes besides the darkness that she used to cover herself. She had massive claws of darkness and marking over her eyes. The third was girl who had purple eyes and long black hair and 2 side plates with chain pieces at the ends. She wore a red coat with a white diamond design, a black tight skirt and laced-up white-heeled boots. Next to her was a black rabbit that sniffed her before leaping into her arms. And lastly was a green-haired woman with an attire that resembled a white devil. She had little bat wings in her hair and on her back. She had an impressive bust while her emerald-like eyes glowed in excitement. The 4 of them looked at Issei, and the girl with the black rabbit looked at him and asked, "You're the one who summoned us, aren't you? Are you our master?" Issei nodded. "Yes. May I please have your names?" The multicolored one smirked. "My name is Melascula. I was originally a demon, but due to some circumstances, I'm now hybrid. I'm both a demon and a vampire." Issei was surprised by this and looked at the other one. She just looked at him and said, "Derriere. Demon. Full demon." Issei presumes she was the person who speaks through action instead of words. The green-haired hugged him on the side and made circle motion on his chest with a pointer finger of hers. "My name is Morrigan and I'm a succubus. My beauty surpasses strength." The one with the rabbit came forward and bowed a little. "My name is Alice Baskerville and know that I'm not so submissive like the others. You better take responsibility as my master." A piece of chicken was shoved in her mouth and Alice stopped as she ate the chicken. She hummed in bliss as she enjoyed the taste. After her snack, she cleared her throat. "I acknowledge you as my master, but make sure you feed me." Issei chuckled as he nodded. "I will, but first things first. Morrigan. You and Alice aid my comrades. They are currently facing holy knights but need assistance. Don't kill them but rough them up a bit." The 2 grinned and Alice smiled for them both. "By your command." Alice disappeared in the shadows and both Melascula and Derriere prepared to fight Hoser and the Tin Man alongside with Issei. "Ready, master?" Issei nods. Round 2 begins. Now. The 3 run to Hoser and his partner as they charge towards the 2 as well. Morrigan, Alice, Jericho and Lupus Regina prepared to fight Helbram and Gila. Meanwhile, Ban, Diane and King were ready to fight the others. Elizabeth kept trying for break and call out to Meliodas until it started to crack. The amber exploded. The demons and the others that were trapped in the amber sensed this power and thought, "Impossible. He was killed a long time ago. So how is he still here?" Meliodas was freed, but something was different about him. He was covered in the demon markings and had a trance-like look in his eyes. He sniffed Elizabeth and summoned his wings before flying to where Issei was. Issei was surprised by this as he looked at his friend and said, "Looks like Drake was right on his assumption. Meliodas, you're a member of the demon race, aren't you? Normally I would have ended it here, but let's keep the ball rolling." Hoser and his partner saw this and were terrified to the core. They heard of the demon race and how powerful they were, but to think that the leader of the 7 deadly sins is one of them makes them even more terrified than the rumors make him out to be. Gilfender and Griamore were surprised at the revelation of the former Holy Knight that served the King of Britannia. Gilfender always looked up to Meliodas and wanted to become stronger than him one day. Meliodas. Who are you? Griamore moved to the princess and cast barrier in front of them both. Veronica was horrified when she learned of this. Little sister. What have you unleashed upon us? The other sins were surprised that their captain was a member of an ancient race that was said to have disappeared a long time ago. Barriere, Morrigan, Alice, and Melascula were surprised because of the appearance of their old leader. Meliodas was the one who betrayed the other commandments, but the only ones who didn't get sealed away in the seal were the 2 of them and Monspet. Monspet sacrificed his hearts to save Derriere from dying 3,000 years ago. He even gave her his repose commandment, but had to be careful so her body wouldn't implode from the extra power. However, because of his feelings for her, the commandment bonded with hers and the 7 hearts she had within her. In order to save her from the others, he tried to seal her in a special amber, but the executioner killed him and took the 2 commandments from her before letting her live in the amber that Monspet created. It's similar to how Melascula fused with her half-vampire sister Ren. When the demons attacked the vampire clan many years ago, Melascula sensed a blood bond with one of the vampires and found out that the one that her blood was reacting to was the leader of Dark Claw. Ren looked at her as if she was finally reunited with her family. Melascula actually cried tears of sadness and joy from finding out she had a sister. Unfortunately, Ren's life was slipping away due to her injuries. Melascula didn't want to lose her only sister, so she fused her soul and body with Ren's. After her transformation, she was cast out of the 10 commandments but was stripped of the commandment that she had. Morrigan and Alice were in the demon realm and tried to recall their memories but could only recall their name and abilities until Zeldris recruited the 2 to join the 10 commandments, but they refused the offer and joined with the alliance and fought against the demon clan for so long, but in the end they were sealed in the amber. The 4 of them didn't know what happened to the others after the war, but when they were in the ambers they felt someone with great power talk to them. Of course it was when he slept and dreamed, but for them, being able to talk to someone after being trapped for so long made them feel happy. So imagine their joy when they were called by their new master, they decided to serve alongside him. Now that their old leader is back, Derriere and Melascula got in front of Issei. Melascula growls as her shadows become more powerful by feeding off of her rage. Take a step towards our master and you're dead. Derriere had her claws out and ready fight him. Meliodas looked at them and extended his arm with the dark marks in the air. The marks became a long sword and he rushed at Issei. Issei had his sword out and clashed with Meliodas. Take care of the others, I'll deal with him. Issei broke the clash and punched Meliodas away from the others. Melascula and Derriere nodded and went to fight Hoser and the Tin Man. Derriere used her superior strength to send the Tin Man flying and kept hitting him around like a pinball. Melascula summoned shadow clones of herself from the shadows of the area around her and ordered them to attack him. Hoser prepared his wind to blow them all away but was stabbed in the side by a lance. He turned to see a clone of himself. Is that my shadow? He got away after pushing away the lance with his wind and looked at the hybrid. What is this power? Melascula grins. This is my second magical power that my sister had. Shadow manipulation. I can use the shadows in the area to my advantage whether to heal, defend, attack, or in this case create a clone using your own shadow. Granted the clone doesn't have your magical power, but it's much stronger than you in terms of physical strength. The clone ran and clashed with Hoser, he broke away from his clone and prepared to use a wind attack, but his lance arm was stabbed through by the shadow's lance. Hoser groaned as his arm was pierced and tried to reach for his lance, but the clone put his foot down on the hand. Hard. Hoser screamed as his hand was getting crushed. He was about to use a powerful wind attack, but it was stabbed by his clone. Melascula watched this with a joyful look on her face. This is fun. Watching a proud and great holy knight get their ass handed to them by a clone of themselves. Her expression changed to a mocking one. How pathetic can you call yourself a knight? Derriere walked over to her with Hoser's partner unconscious from the massive beating he received from the punches. His armor was filled with dents and a little blood came out of a large cut on the side of his armor. He was tossed casually like throwing away a piece of trash. Derriere looked at Melascula and asked. What do we do with them? He said not to kill them but rough them up a bit. She looks at them and grins. I think they're roughed up alright. Knock them out. Derriere walks over to them and hits them on the back of their necks. Done. They looked to where their master had gone with Meliodas and saw the 2 clash with Issei, having a few pieces of his armor missing and Meliodas with a few bruises on him. They wanted to help him and decided to go help Lupus Regina and Jericho fight Helbram and Gila. Lupus Regina was clashing with Gila and Jericho was facing off against Helbram. Jericho was being pushed back by Helbram until a fist punched him away. Derriere had a fist extended and helped Jericho up. Rest. I'll deal with him. Gila saw the reinforcements and decided to bring out her trump card. She leaped away from the others and raised her rapier. I didn't want to use this, but given the circumstances I have no choice. Fireballs appeared in the ground, and one was under Veronica and Elizabeth. Griamore moved in to protect them, but he was too late. Morgan and Alice, along with the other sins, braced for impact. Explosions filled the arena, and a few of the civilians were caught in the blast. Issei heard this and decided to end the fight. Hope this wakes you up. Dragon shot. Meliodas was covered by the beam and sent back into the mountain. Issei waited a bit for him to make a move, but he didn't. Good. Now stay down. Issei flew back and saw two familiar faces next to the hammer. His eyes widened. That's it. Opus Regina, Jericho, Melascula and Derriere were safe thanks to Melascula covering them in the cocoon of darkness. Diane and the other sins were safe thanks to Diane using heavy metal to shield her and her comrades from the explosion. Alice and Morgan were a bit burned from the blast, but their regeneration powers began to kick in. Gilfinder was safe as was Griamore, but Veronica pushed her sister away to save her from the blast. Veronica was covered in blood and was missing an arm. The two cried over the body of a loving sister in person. Elizabeth tried to heal her, but it wasn't enough. Griamore couldn't care less about the fight, the woman he loved was gone forever. Bela was a bit wobbly from using too much magic and turned to see Helbram ride as rain. Issei flew from the side with Mono by his side. Gideon was in his hand and a blank look in his eyes. In his arms was the body of Rin. The girl who wanted to see the world and give the hammer back to the woman who gave her the strength she needed to believe in herself and courage to leave her home to see all of the kingdom. Issei tossed the hammer to Diane, who caught it and had a few tears as she recognized the girl in Issei's arms. Mono grabbed the body from him and brought it to the others who were backing away from the fight. Issei landed a few feet away from them. He looked at all of the destruction of the area, the dead people, and then at Gila. Are you proud of yourselves? Are you happy with all of this death, destruction, sorrow, and bloodshed? Helbram raised his sword. Sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the kingdom. These people will know that this was necessary once we capture the 7 deadly sins. Issei chuckled at the comment and laughed out loud. He spreads his arms out and says to all of the knights in the area. Can you really call yourself knights when you have blood stained on your hands from innocent civilians? Tell me how many people you must kill to keep them safe. 100. Thousands. Would you even kill your own family if ordered to do so? They were shocked when asked this. Knights are meant to protect the people. Guardians of their future, but all I see are a bunch of hypocrites who go around saying justice is being served when all you're really doing is flaunting around your ego and power. Do you even know how many people are suffering because of your actions? If you can't even see the pain the people are in and don't give a shit about what's happening to them, then you're even worse than the demon clan themselves. Bela dropped her rapier and cried as she saw her brother and father look at her in disappointment. She looked around and only saw darkness. Until she saw a demonic version of herself. Her hair was white with hints of black. Eyes red with malice and rage. Teeth sharp as knives. I'm surprised with him and his little speech. He speaks as though he's fought in a war before, but most importantly he's definitely a real catch, all right. Bela has a look of confusion on her face. Who are you? The other Gila laughed. Who am I? That's so simple. I'm the demonic version of you. After you drank the demon's blood, I was born. I must say you're a vicious little one. Killing all of those people without a shred of mercy. She clapped her hands. Nicely done. You're a real monster, all right. Personally, I would go ahead and ditch these losers and go to that hunk of a man. Look at him. The mixed eyes, the power radiating off of him, and not to mention he's handsome. Gila had the impure thoughts enter her mind until she shook them away. I am a knight. I won't give in. Her other self laughed at her and said. Fine. I'll leave for now, but remember I'm always with you. Like it or not. Oh. And know this, one day I'll be the queen of this body, so don't let your guard down, or I'll take it away from you. She at her other self and at her bottom with a jiggle. Gila blushes at this while her demon version laughs. Bye-bye. Gila in the real world is on the ground. Fainted from the power that Issei dispelled over the area. Diane used her new power to overwhelm Gilfinder and tossed him away from the area. They all left Griamore and Elizabeth alone so they could mourn over Veronica's death. Opus Regina and the others moved away because of the look in Issei's eyes. Helbram readied his sword. Brave, but foolish. Do you really think you can overcome my linked power? I have hundreds of holy knights in Hendrickson charging me up. Surrender or I'll make you surrender. Issei said nothing but said 2 words that made Helbram shake in fear. Balance breaker. A crimson pillar covered him, and his new armor was more of a dragon than before with crimson wings that extended from his back. Helbram was terrified of this new power. I've never felt power like this before. It's on a whole other level, but I won't run. He lifted his sword. Prepare to die, beast. Unfortunately. Helbram withdraws now. What? But I haven't secured Meliodas or the princess. If you don't leave now, you'll die. Now withdraw. That's an order. Helbram grunts. Very well. Just as he was about to fly away. Ice rained from the sky and skewered him. Wait, what is this? The cold step was on the ice as Yukiko moved towards him, all healed up from her fight with Issei. My. I never would have thought that the great holy knight Helbram was such a coward. Instead of actually fighting like a man, you decided to retreat with your tail between your legs. How adorable, but you dared to strike my beloved, and that is an action punishable by death. Yukiko walked onto the battlefield and looked at Issei. He's all yours, my love. Show me how terrifying dragons truly are when enraged. Issei thanked her and roared before pouncing on Helbram and ripped him apart. Piece by agonizing piece. Helbram cried and begged for him to stop, but Issei didn't let up. He kept clawing and ripping away the flesh of the knight, and once he stopped. Alice was amazed by the bloody slaughter as she wrote down some notes, while Morrigan and Melascula were helping heal the others. Derriere was keeping an eye on Gila since she hasn't moved since the power burst knocked her out. When Issei was done with Helbram, he couldn't even be recognized as Helbram. Issei spat at him before conjuring up a fireball. Burn in hell. The fire consumed Helbram, and all that was left of the fairy knight was ash and dust. His armor vanished and he looked at Gila. Derriere, bring her to me. She gladly dragged the unconscious knight to her master and dropped her before him. What are you going to do with her? Issei looked at her and poked Gila in the forehead. Hey, I know you're awake. Come on out and let's talk. Gila's eyes opened to reveal crimson orbs. She grinned and tried to ask Issei if it wasn't for Yukiko holding her back with an ice chain around her neck. Issei patted the knight on the head and rubbed her hair. You're Gila's inner demon. Is that right? She nodded. Yes. That pathetic knight Hendrickson gave my partner the demon blood, and when she chugged it down, I was born. I'm her only smarter, stronger, and more beautiful than that pussy. Issei could definitely see a difference between the two. This is crazy. Alright, now answer me this. Why is Hendrickson giving the Knights of Britannia demon blood? Demon Gila smiles. I'll talk for a while. She puckered her lips, and Yukiko wanted to slap the brat until Issei stopped her and gave her a subtle wink. Alright. Pucker up. Gila moved in only to feel a pair of lips touch her, but not Issei's but Yukiko's. Yukiko grinned with shark teeth and grabbed Gila's head. You've had your, now talk. Gila nodded and replied. There are only a select few knights that can withstand the demon's blood. One knight named Twigo tried, but his body couldn't handle it and he literally blew up. He's hoping to awaken the last 3 of the 10 commandments. If you do want to help save the kingdom. Not that I have a care in the world about it. I can tell you where you can find an army that I think you'll be interested in. Issei said. If you mean the other 10 commandments, then no way. Gila shakes her head. No. Not demons. There's a swamp and a forest called the Land of Poison. Have you ever heard of basilisks? Yukiko replies. The ancient snake tribe of poison masters. I thought they were wiped out when the Holy War ended. Demon Gila shook her head. Not exactly. There's a rumor that they are still alive to this day. They're a tricky bunch, so be wary of the water and the trees. And also they are very seductive creatures. They like to take strong men back to their village and procreate with them to save their bloodline. If you want their cooperation, you'll need to face their leader. Issei looked Gila in the eyes. How can we know for sure we can trust the information? For all we know, Gila is listening in right now. The demon grinned. Don't worry about her. I made sure she was quiet. She's very obedient, and for someone who acts strong. She giggles. She is really submissive, courtesy of yours truly. Issei thought he saw Akeno for a second. Alright, we'll check it out, but you're coming with us. He looks at Yukiko. You in? We'll be fugitives but have a whole lot of fun. Yukiko grins. I'm in. It's only natural that I follow my mate. She is his lips, and Issei eyed back with fervor. The two were feeling each other, and Gila was getting turned on just by watching this. Is it so wrong I want to join in? The two separated, and Lupus Regina, Morrigan, Alice, and Melascula pounced on Issei. The girls were in love with him, so they couldn't be outdone by the Ice Woman. Jericho and Derriere saw this and waited until the two stopped assaulting his lips. The two helped Issei up and dusted his clothes from dirt. The others were alright as Gilthander escaped with Howard's team, and Griamore took Veronica to a burial spot where Elizabeth asked him to go bury her sister. She said one last goodbye before Griamore left the group. Diane and the others were alright thanks to Lupus Regina healing them, while Issei talked with Gila's inner demon. Meliodas came out looking like he didn't even know what happened. Issei told Meliodas everything and had to know something important. The answer would decide the team's fate. They were in the boar's hat, and the two of them were staring each other down. You're a member of the demon race, aren't you? Meliodas has a blank look. Yes. Everyone but Issei, Melascula, Morgan, Alice and Derriere gasped when they heard this. One more question. Do you know the 10 Commandments? A long silence entered the room until Meliodas had his hair cover his eyes. Yes, I do know them. Issei sighs and gets up. Well then. I guess this means one thing. He grabbed Meliodas by the shirt and looked him in the eyes. Tell us everything you know about them. If they know you, then that means you know how to stop them. So I'll be willing to help you find the other Sims, but know that I can't trust you the same way for now. Meliodas nodded but had to ask. Where's everyone else going to be staying? We don't have enough room for everyone. Melascula smiled as she went outside and opened a shadow portal. Come forth, my beast. She summons a demon turtle. Its back was flat, but the shell was very sturdy. It's black with a hint of red in its flesh. There was a house on top of the beast's back that was large enough to fit around 20 people. Small on the outside but large on the inside. Think of Avalig from Pokemon, but with a grim look from RWBY and a home on top of it. Issei and the others climbed aboard and set up quickly since they had little supplies. Issei pointed towards the location where the tribe of basilisks were supposedly. Our next location should be the basilisk tribe. If we're going to fight all of the holy knights with demon power-ups and the other commandments, then we'll need all of the help we can get. So Meliodas. You in? Meliodas looked at him before nodding. I'm in. Issei gave directions to the turtle, and it grunted approvingly before it started to walk in the direction it was told by him. The pig roared as it followed the turtle. A magenta-haired woman watched the events transpire as she stood in front of Rin's makeshift grave. And so the team is heading to unknown land, but with mistrust in the group. Truly a sad but wonderful chapter indeed. She dashed to the turtle and landed on its back, out of sight. Now it's time for me to join my old team. The festival has ended in distrust. A new land. And new allies. Meanwhile, back at the festival. Two individuals stepped out of a portal and looked at the mountain terrain. Lilia and Valenti looked at the destruction around them. My. So much destruction of the earth. This was because Meliodas went on a rampage. But why isn't it more well destructive? Valenti pointed to the part of the mountain that was destroyed. Someone was fighting him and made sure he was knocked out. She investigated the area and saw something that made her smile. She reached down and picked up an important key. Well, we may have lost Helbram, but we gained something even better. She turns to show Lilia, who smiled at it. The key to the seal holds the last 3 members of the 10 Commandments, but it seems that they're heading to the land of poison. Send Easton and Camilla. They should be able to deal with a few serpents. Valenti nodded. Understood. Lilia smiled before asking one last question. Oh, and the plan to betray Hendrickson. Valenti smiles. It's all set. Once we have the others, then we can begin. Lilia smiles darkly. Excellent. Hendrickson's days are numbered. Issei and the other members of his team were in the meeting room checking out the map they have on the land of poison. Sadly, they had little to no information on the environment or even the creatures besides the supposed poison masters that supposedly reside within the swamps. Meliodas or any of his team had never traveled into the land of poison, so they couldn't provide much help. Lupus Regina was able to find a book that spoke of the poison masters, of how they appeared as normal girls, but with snake parts such as a forked tongue, fangs, or scales on their skin. They could also transform into a lamia form where they become half human and half snake. But the most terrifying form was their true form. No one lived to draw what it looked like, but it was said to be a creature that was swift and deadly. Truly a terrifying serpent. During the trip, Issei was able to talk with Melascula and Derriere about their pasts and how they knew Meliodas. Melascula explained that she was a part of the 10 Commandments as the holder of the Commandment of Faith. Unfortunately, she was exiled after fusing with her half-sister and becoming a hybrid. The Demon King didn't take it well, but still left her daughter alive. And since she had never actually betrayed the Demon King, she wasn't hit by the curse. Derriere was talking after spending time with the others. She told Issei about her sister and how she was killed by the goddess race. She despised them, but Issei told her that she shouldn't let her anger control her, because one day it will make her do something she will regret. She felt a similarity between Monspit and Issei because of how they always tried to pacify her rage and try to get to know her better. Alice and Morrigan were interesting individuals since Morrigan acted flirtatious but still had wisdom in her and was a strong fighter. Alice was a big glutton but enjoyed having a childish side to her when she wanted to try something new. I've never experienced the outside world or how to have fun, so Issei and Lupus Regina tried to show the rabbit girl how to enjoy herself, besides fighting and killing. Jericho was able to help Issei out in research about the beasts and learned that Issei wasn't so intellectual back in his world and that he was a pervert, but he wore his heart on his sleeve. She could see that he controlled himself around her, but asked why. His response surprised her. I didn't want to scare you more than you already were. You were put through hell and I knew if you saw me act lustful, then you wouldn't trust me or open up. One thing I learned being here was that I had to get serious in battle. My only concern is to help my comrades and defeat the enemy. When the battles are over then I can be myself, and it's thanks to Lupus that my lust has dropped. I care for you and the others, but if you don't want to follow us, I understand. Jericho looked at him and smiled warmly before grabbing him and wringing him. Issei was surprised and felt all of the pent-up emotions that were swimming in her heart. Issei didn't want to be a jerk and sent her back with all of his heart. It made Jericho happy, and even though she had to share him, she knew his heart was big enough for all of them. When they separated she hugged him and cried. I won't ever leave you. Don't forget that. Issei smiles at this. As for Yukiko, she was one who Issei would describe as a half yandere. She was happy and warm with him. She acted like a compassionate soul and showered him with love and affection. She got along with the girls, but told them that if they ever betrayed Issei, then they'll die a cold and slow death. Needless to say, the girls and even Demon Gila were terrified at the thought of pissing her off. She was impressed by Issei's growth and wanted to help him grow even stronger. She was a bit perverted as she enjoyed cuddling with him like they were mates, and when he was in bed. She, Lupus Regina, Morgan, and Melascula crawled into his bed on different nights. Melascula covered him in a blanket of shadows, Lupus Regina warmed him with fur, Morgan wrapped him in her wings, and Yukiko's ice was cold but warm at the same time. Issei liked the shadow blanket, the furry blanket, and the icy one the most since he surprisingly enjoyed it. Every time he woke up the four could always pull him close like they wanted to snuggle with him all day long. Yukiko was definitely a warrior and was like Zenobia in a way but a lot smarter and a leader as well. Her style of fighting, her use of ice and the environment, her way to analyze her opponents, would even scare Surziches and Azazel. Issei and her definitely had fun fighting along with Gila and her demon form. The human half was a bit difficult to get to listen to because of her pride as a knight and her blind loyalty. It was thanks to Jericho and Yukiko that they were able to get her to open her eyes to the truth. Gila was distant to the others besides Jericho at first, but eventually she made an effort to talk to the others. Demon Gila was able to help her open up to the demons and Lupus Regina, and so Gila is friends with them. She felt some sort of understanding with Issei. Well, personally she was terrified of her, even just being around her made her skin crawl. Gila's demon form has helped her learn how to use her enhanced abilities. Looking at the new powers, they were basic super strength, speed, endurance, and flight. With a surprising immunity for fire thanks to her magic, explosion. She had a pair of red wings and had a small amount of darkness that allowed her to sharpen her claws and slightly enhance her punches and kicks. Issei was a big help in training her demon powers since he knew how difficult it was to control a new kind of power she had no knowledge of. Mono enjoyed spending time with all of them and was finally able to learn how to show emotions. She only seemed to show how she felt through her actions, but thanks to the others and Issei, she was able to smile and show expressions besides a blank stare. She asked Alice for practice in using her assassin skills which made the rabbit very happy. All in all, the team was ready for their destination. The land of poison. Meliodas and his team, sadly, separated from Issei's group after Meliodas detected a familiar presence from an old seal. The outside of the land was a group of trees that were covered in a thick fog that seemed almost impossible to see through. They climbed out of the turtle and told Melascula, Alice, Morgan, and Mono to stay put as backup and a quick way to get out in case things get complicated. Issei and his team went through the trees and traveled by the rocks and trees to avoid the water since earlier, when Lupus Regina did a test to see if the water is crossable, which failed when the stick was attacked by a snake that came out of the water. The fog grew thicker as they went deeper until it eventually cleared up when they were at a crossroads. One was a path full of trees, and the second path was filled with rocks and water. Lupus tossed a rock into the water and nothing happened. Issei went on the watery path with Yukiko and Derriere, while Lupus Regina and Jericho and Gila went on the path of trees. Unknown to them, they were being watched by multiple eyes from all around them. With Lupus Regina and co. Lupus Regina was using her animal instincts to help her navigate through the forest, while Gila and Jericho watched a rear in case of an enemy. The snap alert. They put their backs together and got their weapons out to defend themselves. It was quiet, too quiet. A dart shot from the shadows and hit Lupus's neck. She was confused by it until she started to get dizzy before passing out on the ground. Gila summoned a few fireballs and shot them into the trees, while Jericho covered herself in ice after learning how to make armor from Yukiko. The ground broke underneath Gila. Jericho grabbed her hand, but a tail wrapped around her and kept tugging at her until Jericho was hit by an arrow in the arm and started to get weak. The tail gave one final tug and pulled them underground. The last thing Lupus Regina saw before she passed out was a woman wearing a crown on her head. She reached out and rubbed Lupus Regina's cheek. You'll make a fine addition to our people. Lupus passed out and the woman picked her up and carried her away. With Issei and co. The water was still passable as the three made their way across until a splash was heard in the water. Splash. Issei alerted the others. Get ready. We have company. Yukiko readied her sword and Derriere had her darkness ready. They waited and the water was moving by the creature watching them. RRRRR, oh 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 oh, RRRRRRRRR. The swamp water erupted to reveal a giant basilisk. Her scales were dark purple and eyes that were red as rubies. Her underbelly was dark turquoise. Issei and the others looked at the giant snake. Issei looked surprised and said, "That is one big snake." Yukiko and Derriere shouted. "That's what she said." The basilisk leaned down to Issei to bite him, but he got away quickly and summoned his balance breaker. "Come to me, Ascalon." The sword came out and a bright light burst from the sword appeared and pushed away the fog in the area. The basilisk was shocked at the armor and sword until it sprayed acid, which froze in midair thanks to Yukiko, who had a smile. Now. The basilisk felt a punch collide with her head and sent her into one of the rocks. Derriere had a fist extended and leaped to the basilisk. The snake monster was getting up only to receive a beating from the demon girl. The only thing that could be heard was the demon counting and the punches colliding with the snake. 35. 36. 37. 38. 39. The basilisk tried to get back up and spray acid but got hit by a giant enhanced fist. Derriere shouted 40. She punched the snake into the pillars of stone. Issei stood near where the snake would land. "Come on big girl, come to papa." The snake flew until it hit the sixth pillar and fell into the water. Yukiko and Derriere appeared near him. Yukiko hugged him and nodded. "She's done. Let's." Issei pulls her back as the basilisk appears again but fully healed. The girls were surprised until Issei explained. "It's the water. It heals all reptiles and replenishes their strength. They use this water to capture prey and as soon as they touch the water, the poisoned water kills them in seconds. Also, she's not our enemy." Issei put away his sword as he looked at her. "She's been testing us, isn't that right?" The snake looked surprised as did the girls. Issei chuckled and looked into the fog. "You were surprised when I summoned Ascalon, which means you know them, don't you?" The snake's head looked into his eyes. Neither flinched from the other. Issei then turned to the fog. "Now then. You can hear us, can't you?" The voice broke out laughing as if she found it amusing. My, you truly are an intriguing one." "That's enough my dear. It's truly him from the legend." The basilisk shrunk and in its place was a girl with long, slender legs with purple scales on them. Her figure was athletic but soft to the touch. Her chest was around Yukiko's and her arms were thin but strong. Her hair extended to the back of her neck. She had an eye mask to cover her face. Issei and the others were surprised by the new look that the fearsome monster had transformed into. She noticed them looking at her and suddenly turned away. "PP please don't look at me." Issei was surprised by the change until he gave her a head pat and smiled at her. "You know you're cute when you're like this." "CC cute." She turned red and almost fainted until another lamia that came out of the water grabbed her and took her over elsewhere to cool her down. Another woman with long purple hair and had scales on her arms and legs with ruby-like eyes. Her throne consisted of bones from both animals and humans. Issei, Yukiko, and Derriere were in front of her and looked around to see the other lamia. Some were warriors, while some of them wore assassin or caster-like attire. Issei looked back at the queen and asked, "Where is Lupus Regina, Jericho, and Gila? Tell me or I'm going to get angry." His aura started to rise, and the others were nervous as the queen had a passive look on her face. She lifted a hand to calm her subjects, and 3 individuals were taken out of the cages. The girls seemed fine and aren't poisoned in any way. Issei walked to them, but 2 girls tried to stop him with their spears. Issei grabbed the spears and broke them in half. "Move. Now." He growled and the others moved. He hugged the girls. "You're alright. They didn't hurt you, did they?" Jericho and Gila laughed as they bombarded them with questions, while Lupus was enjoying the hug. "We're fine. Just a little woozy, but I think the queen seems interested in you." Issei turned to the queen and asked. "You said a legend, what legend are you referring to?" A white serpent with white hair and blue eyes moved to a wall and showed them a picture of Issei in his balance breaker with Rita in the air. Along with others following him in the charge against demons and other monsters. The legend speaks that a warrior clad in crimson red armor with green eyes, the aura of a dragon, a holy sword that burns bright as the sun, with trustworthy followers to go into battle with him, and a warm heart, will combat the darkness of this world. The serpent slithers to Issei and gently cups his cheeks and moves her hands on his face, as if she's trying to see him with her hands. "Yes. You're him." She extends her arms apart. "This is the warrior. The legend is true. Please tell us your name." Issei places Ascalon blade first into the ground and puts his hands on top of the handle. "My name is Issei. Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor and the Lion Sin of Pride." The Lamias cheered from the announcement. Gila used B explosion magic to burn away the rope, Jericho used her dagger to cut herself free, while Lupus used her fangs to bite her way free. They stood in front of Issei with their weapons ready. The queen saw this and smiled. Truly impressive servants. She stands up. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vinamanaga, queen of the poisonous snakes. It's to meet you. She sits back on the throne. I imagine you're here because you need assistance. Issei nods. I hate to be rude, but we could use the power of your clan to defeat the Holy Knights that have turned on the Kingdom of Britannia. Also there is another problem, the demon clan is returning. All of the snakes gasp while Vinamanaga is surprised. Impossible, they were sealed away. They couldn't be set free. Derriere steps forward. I'm a rogue member of the 10 Commandments. Derriere, former keeper of both repose and purity. A portal opened behind her and Melascula floated out and bowed to the queen. My name is Melascula of Faith. I was cast out for being a hybrid of both a demon snake and a vampire. Mono, Morgan, and Alice introduced themselves as well before the queen and explained the situation outside of the swamp. The basilisks were surprised and talked among themselves. The queen was shocked as well. They had been hiding for so long, they didn't bother about the outside world. The queen was afraid that if the demon clan returned then they wouldn't be safe in the poisonous swamp. I will go with them. Everyone, even the queen, turned to see the purple-haired girl that they were fighting earlier with her mask on and had thin but durable armor on her body. She was in her human form as she slithered over to the queen and bowed to her. Mother. Please allow me to accompany them on their journey, and shall we take that other prisoner and hear him out? Issei was curious and asked. What other prisoner? Vinamanaga looks at Issei and gestures for one of the guards to bring out the other prisoner. You are not the first to enter our land. A week ago, a member of the goddess clan fell into our land and told us of how their land was going to fall to the demon clan. At first we didn't believe him, but seeing your allies now, it makes sense of why they have returned and how the Holy Knights are much stronger than before. The little boy that looked similar to Meliodas was brought out in front of them. The boy was scared and didn't know what was going on until Issei kneeled to his level and asked. Who are you? The boy whispered a bit until Issei flicked him in the forehead. The boy was surprised by this action until Issei asked again. I'll ask you again. Who are you? The boy gulped and spoke. Solid. I'm a member of the celestial race. My people are in danger but won't believe me that the day of ruin is coming. Issei looked at the queen for confirmation. She explained. The members of the celestial clan are the descendants of the goddesses from the goddess clan. The ones who fled from the war and survived. Sadly, over time their wings have become smaller and their magic greatly decayed. They are much weaker than a red or grey demon. Issei nodded and looked at the newly named Solid. So let me guess, you left to find help because no one believed you for many reasons and you wanted to prove yourself. Solid looked down as he knew Issei was right. A hand was put on his shoulder. We'll help but only if you tell us everything. No secrets. Solid couldn't believe his ears but nodded rapidly. The queen smiled as she saw this. He really is how the legends describe him. She turns to the one who wishes to leave with him blushing. And it seems she's taken an interest in him. She grins at the new teasing material. Let the boy go. If the dragon warrior wishes to help him then we shall allow it. Issei Haidu, please allow my daughter, Naga, to accompany you on your quest. She's strong and will prove to be very helpful in battle and strategizing. She pulls out 2 horns and tosses them to Issei. Those horns can open a portal that will summon an army of Lamais to your aid and will follow your command. Issei thanked her and nodded to Melascula, who opened a portal to their beast. Issei gave the queen one last look. I promise to protect your daughter, no harm will befall upon her. Vinamanaga smiles while Naga blushes at the thought of being rescued in his arms. Yukiko appears behind Naga and slaps her, which scares her. She disappeared into the portal. Don't fall behind. Naga glares at the ice woman and personally vows to herself to kick that blue woman's ass. She followed her through while Lupus Regina grinned at the new teasing victim, subject. The others left while Issei stayed behind as the portal was still open. The queen and the dragon stared the other down. You didn't tell her that you're dying, did you? The queen groaned before sighing. I've been getting old and weak over these past years, but I know my daughter wishes to travel the world, so please, keep her safe, and should you go home, take her with you. She's never been one who wishes to take the throne. Naga was a free spirit who wanted to travel around the world, meet new people, and learn all she can. Also, if you two ever get together, maybe she'll stop blushing at the mental image of a man in front of her. The two laughed at this until Issei went through the portal and gave the queen a small smile. The portal closed and the queen collapsed. The white one came to her aid. Are you alright, my lady? The queen smiled at her and nodded. Yes. I only wish that Naga knows I love her with all my heart. The white one smirks and eyes the queen's lips. I can show you how much I love you, my venomous lady. The queen blushed as her lover fed her with love and proceeded to do the deed on the throne. But Issei and company. Solid was surprised that the team was so different and yet they worked together so well. Eventually, he knew he had to tell them about the Celestial race's history. The Celestial clan were allied with the Goddess clan during the war with the Demon clan 3,000 years ago. During the war, we were almost overwhelmed by the 6 Knights of Black, a horde of lesser demons and an Endura before they were sealed by the great Ashiro in the Egg Rock. Ashiro also bestowed the winged sword to us Celestials since the seal was imperfect. Lesser demons infrequently escaped to harry them, but were quickly put down by the Celestial warriors. We feared the time of ruin because that is when the seal on the Egg Rock would fully break and all its inhabitants would be freed. The elders and priests came to be under the mistaken impression that the demons had conquered Earth and killed the human, fairy and giant clans. Thus, we believed all outsiders were members of the demon clan. That is until now. Issei and the others were surprised until Issei spoke. Are they stupid or something? Solid had his head down when he heard this. Sometimes they are a bit dull. Issei put a hand on his shoulder. We'll help but only if you tell us all you know about Endura and the 6 Knights of Black. Solid nodded and wished he could be more like his new idol. Outside their home was in the air, moving towards its next destination. The Sky Temple. The pink-haired woman who tailed them was smiling. So we depart for the Lost Sky Temple. A new chapter for my book. Unknown location. Lilia, Valenti, and Hendrickson were in front of a seal. Valenti held the dagger, while Lilia had a handkerchief with special blood that was needed to unlock the prison. Elbrum may have died, but he did accomplish getting us the key to open the seal. Valenti handed the key over to Lilia. Care to do the honors? Lilia smirked. A dark mark appeared on her face. Of course. It's time to awaken the others and then we'll have our revenge on the traitor Meliodas. The seal glowed as it was placed and the portal opened. 3 silhouettes appeared and the smallest one stepped out and looked at them. Well. You took your precious time, Lilia. Lilia and Valenti bowed before the 3. We do apologize for the late arrival, but we've had some complications. The 3 appeared out of the portal and Hendrickson was shocked by the 3 before him. The first was a short yet muscular young man. He greatly resembled Meliodas in a way, though there were a few slight differences between them. His hair was spiky black and grew counterclockwise to Meliodas, and they both had the same demon mark, except his is over his left eye instead of his right. His attire was a bodysuit, crimson in color, and had a white insignia in several places. The suit has an open collar and exposes his chest. He has silver gauntlets and carries his sword with a strap on his hip. The second was a short old man wearing a set of clothes and rings suited for nobles with elaborate designs. He had green spiky hair, beard, and mustache, and his demon mark was on the right side of his head that has 2 spiked circles connected by a line from above to below his right eye. When he opens his mouth, he shows himself to have a full set of fangs for teeth. Well, and who might this be? A treat after being locked away for so long? Hendrickson was shocked until Valenti stopped him. He's to be kept alive in order for the plant to work. So please cease this, Chandler. Chandler growled before he stepped back. The last one was a tall and very muscular man with red hair that has bangs extending to cover his right eye and end in a long ponytail braided. He also had a very long mustache that reached his pectoral section and a small goatee. His demon mark consisted of 2 black arrows extending below his left eye and a spot of darkness on his right shoulder that extends further around his arm. His attire consists of a skin-tight white vest shirt with no sleeves, black pants and high knee boots. On his forearms are detached sleeves. He bows to Hendrickson as a form of apologizing. Forgive my friend here, but he hasn't eaten in a long time, so he tends to be cranky when hungry. Hendrickson swallows his spit and gives a crooked smile. No. It's fine. But we should inform you of the situation. Zeldrix nodded before sitting on a boulder. What's the situation? Lilia gave a sigh before explaining all that's happened and the plan. Chandler and Cusisk were intrigued by the lion son of pride, but Zeldris was angry at Mono leaving the team. What of the others? Where are they? Valenti took over. Easton, Amaryllis and Camila were supposed to head to the land of poison, but detected a powerful demon sealed away long ago and went to check it out, but all they found were the survivors of the goddess race. Zeldris was shocked by this until she said they were able to kill many of them, but they seemed to be much weaker than before during the war. They stayed behind to see what was inside of the egg until they found out that an Endura was within it. They managed to kill it thanks to Roxy and have been hunting the 6 Knights of Black as we speak. Zeldris nodded until he got up. I still haven't regained my full power. I'll have to rest here until my magic is completely restored. He looked at Chandler. Chandler. Can you deal with this group? Chandler nodded. Of course. I'd be more than happy to deal with these troublesome demons, and may I have Cusack come with me, it'll be much more fun that way. Zeldris sighed before nodding. Apologies, Cusack. He waved off Zeldris's concern. It's quite alright, my lord. I am more than happy to accept any request you have for me. Valenti opened a portal. This will take you to the others. Be wary of the dragon. He's strong. Very strong. The two nodded before going into the portal. Farewell, Lord Zeldris. We shall dispose of these creatures once and for all. They left and Zeldris was looking at the three before summoning his wings. Well, why don't you show me the progress of the plan? Hendrickson was about to speak until Zeldris sliced off his head. I need to see how the plan of resurrecting my father, the Demon King, fares. Lilia smiled. Everything is going according to plan, and if all goes well we'll be seeing your father sooner than you think. As Zeldris spoke with Valenti, Lilia smirked inwardly. Soon I'll have the power to defeat all who stand in my way. Once I have the Demon King's power. No one. Not even Merlin, Meliodas, or this can stop me. Issei and his group were in the air chatting with Salad and learning all they could about both the Celestial race and the 6 Knights of Black. Salad got more relaxed with the group and learned to be more confident in himself thanks to Issei and Yukiko. Lupus Regina had been helping him learn to draw magic from around him to help his reserves since they were just pathetic. The others had helped from time to time, but Gila and Jericho were busy training with Yukiko as they wanted to get stronger. Naga tried to prank Yukiko, but they always either backfired or Yukiko embarrassed her by ignoring her. Velascula has been practicing her shadow portal abilities and learned to make armor and weapons for herself. She even made a move called Rebellion. It summons multiple shadow blades that can attack any target of her choosing. Derriere has been sparring with Issei since he was one of the only few that fights mostly with his fists. The two have had a lot of fun sparring, and Issei felt like he had changed for the better. Alice and Morrigan were learning how to improve their skills with Issei and the others. Alice showed off her rabbit transformation, which made the others interested in its abilities. Alice could devour souls like other demons, but her power increases by the number of souls she consumes. Morrigan was one who used her seduction to fight before getting serious. Today they were nearing their location, so time to go over the enemy. Which leads to the meeting they are having concerning how to take care of them. Issei and Solid are at the board with 6 drawings. Issei points to the first one. Pump. He was a very tall humanoid demon. At first sight he can be mistaken for someone wearing a full set of magenta armor when this is his actual body. He has very large hands which have sharp blade-like fingers. Alright, here's the first one, his name is Pump. He may not look like much of a threat, but he's not someone we should underestimate. His entire body is basically that armor, but it's not impenetrable, it's surprisingly weak, and with the right amount of strength, you can do damage to him easily. His magical power, however, is a threat. It's called Hypno Stinger. What it does is that it paralyzes the opponent by using needles that come out of his body. We don't know the distance of these needles, but it's best we take him out with long-range magic or weapons. The girls nodded. Solid took over for the next one. The demon was labeled Gala. She has a humanoid appearance. She has gingery colored hair with 2 buns horizontal from each other at the top of her head. 2 long strips of hair that end in curls come down from each hair bun. She has red colored eyes. She has a 4-star shaped mark between her eyes. She has most of her torso exposed, only wearing a pink bra attached to black sleeves that cover her arms. She has long black pants with a pink belt adorned with a yellow star. This is probably the second weakest out of all of them. She uses a whip as a weapon and has an enhancement magical ability that seems to work on a large power boost. This boost increases their size and makes them bulky. Besides that, we really don't have much information about her. Lupus Regina spoke up. So it's best to take her weapon out so she can't use her power. Solid nods. That's the only possible way besides killing her. Without her weapon she can't really use her ability. Lupus Regina nodded and sat down. Issei went to the third demon. This one resembled a muscular anthropomorphic lion. He also has facial features identical to that of an orange demon. This one is not really a tough opponent in terms of physical strength, but when it comes to magic, he's a troublesome opponent. He's an elemental magic caster who seems to specialize in fire, ice, earth, and wind magic. So it's best we kill him quickly until he uses his magic. Everyone nodded. Solid went to the fourth demon. Unfortunately, we didn't have a picture of the actual demon, but this one resembles a black and white mask with a small star design placed under each eye hole. From what my father told me about him was that he was a puppet master who used the earth to make his body and monsters. So he's more of a golem creator. Issei was interested in meeting this one. Issei went to the fifth one. We don't have a picture of the fifth demon, but what we learned was that she's an elder lich but takes on the form of a human. Not much else about her. Melascula asked. So the only ones we need to really worry about are the first 4 and the 6th. Issei shrugged. That would be best, but moving on, we have the last one. Solid. Solid nodded. This one is the leader and no doubt stronger than all of them in both magic and physical strength. He was a very tall and muscular man. He has red eyes and gray skin. His hair color is purple. His name is Belian. Stories about him are terrifying because it said that his strength was on par with the 10 Commandments. He even took down multiple divine lance corporals all by himself. I think it's best to leave him to Issei. Everyone nodded at that. But the biggest issue is Indura, Akabaruja. Baruja was an extremely large beast-like demon. He possessed a large purple body with 6 stumpy legs, his back is covered in spikes, and has a long tail that ends in a spiked sphere. Along with a big mouth and 6 eyes. This beast is asleep but won't be able to fight unless he is fed many souls. Souls are what gives him power, the stronger the soul the more power it receives. Issei and the others whistled as they heard this. We definitely don't want to fight this beast. Everyone agreed with Salad on that. There was a thud outside until Melascula looked outside. We've arrived but something seems off. Everyone went outside to see the town square of the celestial race, but it seemed empty. The houses and the landscape were fine, but there was not a soul in sight. The egg was still intact, but there was no one in the corridor. Issei looked at Solid. You said this was the biggest time of the year, right? If so, where is everyone? Solid looked surprised as well. I don't know. The turtle got down so everyone could get off, after that Melascula sent it away. Lupus Regina had her ears out, but she had a frown on her face. It's so quiet. Too quiet. There's not a sound. No snoring, laughing, shouting, nothing. It's like a ghost town. Naga had a snake curl on her arm. She looked at it and nodded as if she was receiving information. My snakes have told me that beyond the square, the temple, the courtyard, and the egg no one is in sight. But the winged sword is still embedded in the stone. Issei is shocked. That's impossible. How can an entire town just up and disappear? He knew they wouldn't receive answers standing around. We need to find answers. It's best we split up and cover more ground. My group will check the homes and see if we can find anything that can tell us what happened. Derriere, Alice, Morgan, Naga, you're with me. Solid knows this place like the back of his hand, so he'll be the leader of his team. Lupus Regina, you and Gila go with him. Yukiko, you and your group will be checking out the courtyard and see if you can find anyone. Melascula, Jericho go with her. Stay sharp and keep each other safe. Everyone nodded and left. Unknown to them, a pair of red eyes looks at them from afar. The creature scurries off to alert its master. The temple. Lupus Regina was checking out the books in the temple's library to find anything useful. Solid and Gila were checking out the outside of the library until. Guys, you might want to come see this. Gila and Salad rushes back to Lupus Regina, only to find her crying over an old woman. Lupus Regina has her hands over the woman's heart and poured healing magic into her. She has a faint heartbeat, but I think she can be saved. The old woman groans as she opens her eyes to see a familiar face. SS Solid, is that really you? Solid rushes to her side and grabs her hand. Yes, it's really me. This is great, we have to let the other KN. He was enveloped in a hug from her until she let go and laid back down. Solid, you must listen to me. You must find the winged sword that was granted to us by the great Ashiro and stop those monsters. Gila was surprised. What monsters? The woman looks at her and says. Be wary of those you see. The dead and demons walk among the soil, but there are survivors. Lupus Regina asked. Where? The woman shook her head. I don't know, but you must find the Eld. She is the leader of the revolution, but we are weakened by time and our powers are pitiful. She struggles to get up, but Solid helps her. Take me to the center of the temple. There is something you can use to fight these beasts. She leads them to the center and in the middle is a stone that has a sword inside of it. It has a long feather-shaped blade over a handle with several blue spheres encrusted within it and 2 feather-like ornaments near the base of the blade. She leads Solid to it and puts his hand on the handle. Pull it out. It can only be wielded by one who values life and possesses a compassionate heart. That is the requirement to use the winged sword, now show me your resolve. Solid nodded and focused on the sword before he pulled it out with all his might. The sword glowed and the old woman was happy. Oh. This brings me joy. To see the great winged sword wielded once more, in a time of peril. She gets on her knees and begins to turn into holy energy. Vanis, I'm grateful for you taking care of Solid. Now I can rest in peace. She vanished into holy energy and the energy went into the sword. Solid said a silent prayer for the elderly. He then turned to the others. We need to meet up with Issei. They nodded and headed out. A man was watching them leave from afar. He had tears shed from his eyes. My son. A woman appeared next to him and chuckled before summoning her mace. This'll be fun. The town square. Yukiko, Melascula, and Jericho saw how the area was mostly abandoned and not a single person was in sight. Melascula wanted to check out the egg, she said she had a weird feeling that the egg might hold a clue to what was going on. The trio went to the egg and Melascula poured her magic into it. Her eyes widened. A dark fist made from her shadow emerged and smashed the egg. Jericho was shocked. What are you doing? You just released. Yukiko held her head. Look inside. There's no one home. I thought something was amiss, which is why I was going to suggest checking out the egg. Velascula conjured a dark flame and went inside the egg. The others followed her, but all they saw were corpses of demons. Red, gray, and blue demons were killed and their blood bathed the area. Jericho saw writing on the wall. Hey, I think I found something. Velascula sent the flame near the area and it revealed some kind of message. Yukiko and Jericho didn't understand it. What's it say? They turned to see Velascula scared as her eyes widened. No. It can't be. There's no way. Yukiko grabbed her. Snap out of it. Velascula woke up. I'm sorry but we need to find Issei and the others now. We're definitely not alone. She floated in a hurry and Yukiko and Jericho were catching up to her. Jericho was freaking out. What the hell is going on? Velascula looked back. There's no time to explain. We need to find the others now. A giant beast emerged from afar and saw them. Food. At the town square. Issei, Derriere, Alice, Morgan, and Naga were checking out the area, along with some snakes that Naga summoned with her magic. Apparently she's the only basilisk in her clan that has a magical ability. It's called Serpent's Pulse. It allows her to summon and control serpents at will. What makes the power unique and versatile is that she can also create snakes out of anything, as long as it fits into the definition of serpent. So they experimented with a few items like a polar arrow. The snakes are very loyal to Naga and will follow her every order. They had been searching the houses, but no sign of anything that would be useful besides some pictures or ideas for the festival that was supposed to happen. They were about to give up until a snake put a book in Issei's lap. Apparently the snakes are fond of Issei that Naga made a joke about them thinking that Issei was their king. Issei and his group sat at the fountain in the center. He opened the book and began to read the latest entry. It's been 2 weeks since Solid left, his father is worried about him and begins to believe that the day of reckoning is near us. The day of the festival has come. I just wish Solid was here to enjoy this with us. The dance to seal the demons in the egg will begin tonight. I hope the demons don't come back. Naga interjected. It seems like whoever wrote this also believed Solid when he said the day of reckoning was coming. But if the dance and ritual were a success, then what happened? Derriere pointed to the book. Read. Issei nodded and flipped to the last page. What shocked them all was that the page had blood on it and a quick note. To anyone who finds this page, beware of the monsters that devour demons, celestials, and humans alike. These monsters are more powerful and eat many of the demons in the egg. The celestial warriors tried to fight, but there were too many losses. Then others came, a woman who controls water, a goddess, and one who uses explosions. Within the pages lies a map to a secret base that's located on the island. Find the winged sword and the others. I, Elid, second in command of the celestial warriors, hope someone finds this message. Know that these demons are far greater than even Endura, their names were. Morgan and Alice were shocked. Well, what's their name? Issei points to the page. It's been burned. I believe the one who wrote this passage was the Elid person. She must have died while writing a message as a warning to anyone who found it. Let's get the others and find the survivors. Maybe there's hope to stop these demons. Thud. 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 Issei and the team turned to see Yukiko, Jericho, and Velascula run to them. Issei. We're in trouble. They got the men behind them came in, eyes gray and lifeless like a puppet on its strings. Solid, Gila, and Lupus Regina came out with a winged sword, but behind them were 2 individuals. One resembled a celestial, but this one had a beard and looked like a warrior. His body was encased in darkness, and his wings were white but tainted in black. The other was Gala, who looked like her head was ripped off but sewed back on with darkness, and her arms were replaced with a celestial's arms. Issei and the others huddled up. They checked out their enemies. Issei gave the orders. Solid, Naga, Yukiko, you're with me. Everyone else gets those 2 other zombies or whatever. They nodded and broke off. Issei punched Araki in his face and sent him back, while Naga revealed her eyes and paralyzed the golem. Solid rushes in and slices off its axe arm. The arm disintegrates and the golem regenerates into a new one. Naga had a deadpan look on her face when she saw this. Oh shit. Her serpents that she created earlier were wrapped around the golem and tried to squeeze it, but it didn't have any real effect on the golem. Issei used Rita to slice off the undead lion's arm. Rita glowed in a golden light, and Issei was surprised when the arm disintegrated, but Dorakio didn't even flinch. He just kept shooting his magic as if it didn't matter. Issei sliced off the second one and kicked the lion in its chest. Dorakio was still but its mouth moved. Issei heard the lion whisper something. Kill me. Please kill me. Issei was surprised it talked until he understood. He raised it in the air. rest in peace. He swung and sliced Araki in half. The lion thanked him as his body was burned and Alice ate the soul that was leaving the body. Issei turned back to his comrades and saw that Yukiko and Jericho froze the two zombies while Gila blew one of its heads up and Lupus Regina bashed her axe in the other one's head. Derriere and Melascula were helping Salad and Naga deal with the golem. Braig, any advice about this golem? Braig was thinking until he noticed something. Most golems are difficult because of their resistance to either magical attacks or physical, but this one seems to be more of a physical resistance golem. It's best to use fire to harden it or ice to freeze it, then break it with holy magic. Sounds good. Thanks, partner. Issei charged a cruel sun in his hand and fired it at the golem. It burned the golem for a short while, but it was able to barely endure the attack. Yukiko froze its left arm and noticed that it couldn't break it or regenerate a new limb. Use ice magic so it can't move. Jericho nodded to her and began to freeze the golem. Mono appeared out of the shadows and enhanced her swords with ice magic and sliced the beast's right leg. Jericho stabbed its left leg and froze it before moving to its remaining arm. Issei stabbed Rita inside of the beast's chest, and the beast was filled with fire and holy magic until it exploded. The beast disintegrated until nothing remained. Everyone relaxed until the celestial zombie got back up and walked to Solid. Salad prepared himself until the zombie's eyes had light in them. It spoke. Welcome home, son. Solid's eyes widened before he cried a little and stabbed the winged sword in its chest. Holy magic was destroying the celestial's body. The man didn't mind and smiled. Thank you, my son. I'm so proud of the man you became, I only wish I was there to see you grow. Solid smiled and hugged his father's body. Goodbye, Dad. The celestial chief warrior then disappeared into nothingness. Issei gave Solid time alone while he purified the body of Gala. Gala smirked and gave a small nod in thanks. They rested for a bit as they looked at the map to the revolution and saw that it was close by. They headed to the mountains where there was a hidden cave in the ground. Issei saw that it required the winged sword. Solid stabbed the sword in it and the tunnel started to open. The woman walked out and greeted them. I must say this is certainly a surprise. I wasn't expecting anyone to actually find the base. Wait. Solid. Solid was shocked. She nodded and the two hugged it out until a voice stopped them. As much as I hate to break up this reunion, but please introduce yourself to the rest of us. Issei and his group turned to three individuals. The first was a tall, muscular man with long dark black hair and 4 angelic wings protruding from his back. He wears full-plated golden armor with a set of robes adorned on his body. The second was a tall, bulky man with short brown hair and a long fringe covering his eyes. He wears a blue attire with white crosses patterns in his chest, belt and hat. He had 6 wings on his back. The third was a slim young woman with long hair. She wore a green coat with yellow sleeves and had on a cute cap. Issei blushes seeing her but is pulled into Yukiko's as she glares at the woman. There were many men, women, and children, but they were frightened by the visitors until Elit calmed them down. Issei noticed Derriere was glaring at 2 of the people before them, and he motioned to Yukiko to grab her before she charged in. Derriere was about to pounce on them until Yukiko put her arms over Derriere's and held her back. Issei got in front of her. Derriere, look at me. She continued to struggle. Issei grabbed her face and made her look at him. Look, I don't know why you're mad, but please we need to keep a cool head and plan out the next attack. This isn't the time for revenge. We need to figure out what's going on, so please save your anger for the enemy. Okay. Derriere had her head down and Yukiko still held her. I'm going to tell Yukiko to let you go, okay? Derriere nodded. Issei motioned for Yukiko to let go. She did and Derriere just put her head in Issei's chest. Forgive me. Issei patted her head and rubbed her hair. It's okay now. Elit came back and looked at the two before calling them. Can you please introduce yourselves? Issei nodded and introduced them all. I'm Issei. This is my group. Lupus Regina, Jericho, Melascula, Derriere, Gila, Naga, Mono, Morgan, Alice, and Yukiko. Each waved or gave them a nod when their name was mentioned. The brown-haired one stepped forward and extended his hand. I am Tarmiel, one of the 4 archangels. The woman then stepped forward. I'm Serial, one of the 4 archangels. The black-haired man stepped up. I am the leader of the archangels. My name is Ludociel. Elliot takes over the conversation and asks the dragon. Sorry to come off as rude, but if you're here that means you found my journal, didn't you? Issei rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Yes, sorry about that, but we were curious as to where everyone was. Elliot brushed it off. I should tell you the truth. I'm not really Elliot. She died from the attack, but I saved her and took over her body. Solid and Issei looked surprised until her body went under a transformation. Then wings in total sprouted from her back, her skin turned pale, and her hair became light. Her attire changed to a white dress with a cross symbol in the middle, some type of gauntlet on her hands, and a halo. Elliot opened her eyes to reveal the goddess clan symbol. I am actually the supreme deity. You may call me Akemi. It's to meet you. Crimson dragon from another world. Issei and Lupus Regina were shocked. This woman was able to figure out he was from another world. Solid asked. Wait, so Elliot really died? Akemi nodded. It's to formally meet the man she held dear to her heart. I'm afraid there are more that you must meet. No need to worry, we're already here. A gentleman with slick back hair, wearing a black and white mask with a small star design placed under each eye hole. He wore a black suit and white gloves that gave him an interesting look. My name is Banner. A knight of black. To meet you. A beautiful and well-endowed woman with fair skin and a curvaceous figure. She has brown eyes and straight brown hair reaching down to the front of her shoulders and further behind her back, slightly curling at the tips. Her fringe sometimes covers her right eye. On top of her head, she has a single ahogue that arcs. She wore a purple dress, with a dark purple cloak robe over it. She went over and hugged his head in her chest, much to Yukiko's, Melascula's, and Derriere's irritation. It's to meet you. I'm a knight of black as well. You can call me Wiz. The last one was Bellion. The demon looked beaten up, but alright all things considered. Well. Look who we have here, it's the disgusting half-breed, the cow tits, the bratty rabbit, and the pathetic brawler who almost died, but lived thanks to that fool Mon. His throat had a hand over it as he was lifted in the air by Issei. His eyes turn green as he glares at him. Don't ever insult them again. I don't care if you're an ally, but know if you betray us then you're dead. Got it? Bellion nodded and was tossed to Vanner, who caught him. Akemi clapped her hands to get their attention. Now that we have introductions taken care of, it's time to begin planning. Issei had to ask an important question. Can you tell us what actually happened here? The journal said something about powerful demons. Who are they? Wiz came up and gestured to them to follow her. It's best if we talk while having a nice cup of tea. Please sit down and have something to eat. You all must be hungry. Vander brought some fruit while Bellion grumbled as he brought over the teapot. Wiz thanked them before explaining the situation. After the seal on the egg was destroyed we left, but there were other demons who came and attacked the Celestials. They called themselves Chandler and Cusack. There were 3 women with them as well. One was called Roxy, the Queen of Explosions. Easton, the Empress of Water. And Camila, the Executioner of Darkness. They attacked all of us and killed many of the demons. We all fought hard, but we were vastly overpowered, and the 2 demons leading the attack ate many souls of both the demons and the Celestials. One by one, many of us were cut down, but Vander saved me from dying at Chandler's hands before I managed to save others with my magic. Unfortunately, we needed to flee and we've been hiding ever since. We needed backup, so the Celestials used an ancient ritual to summon the Archangels and the Supreme Deity, but they need a host, so that's why they look different than before. Issei and his group were shocked until he asked. What kind of abilities do they have? Bellion took over. The fat demon Chandler uses full counter. Similar to Meliodas. Cusack had a magical power that allowed him to control a person like a puppet. Roxy's magic is explosion. Anything her flail hits explodes on contact. Easton is Water Fang. Similar to your friend's Ice Fang, but it specializes with water instead of ice. Finally, the last one is a minor shadow manipulation. She relies solely on her strength and her beast-like abilities. Trust me when I say that out of all of them, she's the second strongest. Chandler is terrifying. Issei nods in thanks, and they continue to exchange information about the demons, and then night passes by. The next day. The sky was dark and gray. Outside the base, Issei was keeping watch outside in case of an invasion from those undead creatures. He had volunteered to keep watch because of Bellion. During the meeting, he knew Vanner and Wiz wouldn't even think of trying to betray them. Wiz seemed more innocent and actually cared for the lives of others, while Vanner just enjoyed pulling pranks and helping out. He may be an agent of destruction, but he didn't hate the Celestials or anything like that. However, Bellion on the other hand is another story. I don't trust those two. Wiz and Vanner are one thing, but Bellion. He can't be trusted. I personally agree with you. Issei turns to see Yukiko as she rests her head against him. Issei told the other girls to keep an eye on the Archangels and Bellion. Yukiko sat next to him and looked at the horizon. Personally, I do believe in the possibility that those two will betray us, but we do need all of the help we can get. Tell me, what do you think of the upcoming battle that will soon take place? Issei sighs. In my opinion, it'll be a bloodbath. Most of the civilians don't know how to fight, and there's no doubt that if Bellion betrays us, then more innocent lives will be taken. The demon race is returning. I feel it. My dragon abilities are telling me that something big is coming, and that this battle will only be a prelude to the carnage when the Demon King returns. He summons Rita and puts it next to him. It's too quiet here. You'd think the demons would be trying to attack us right now, right? Yukiko nodded. Perhaps they're waiting for something to happen before they make their appearance. Yeah, maybe. Unknown to them, they had an observer. Bellion was watching them from afar. He made sure he had his presence sealed so they wouldn't notice him. Those guys got a point, but I also have my reasons for fighting with them. He remembered how he wanted to be a member of the Ten Commandments so badly. However, that dream was destroyed by Meliodas. He made his team of outcasts and those who didn't want to work with the Demon King and separated from the army with their own personal demon army. Wiz and Vander were two who truly didn't deserve to be with the Demon King's army. Wiz was too soft on humans and never wished to inflict any harm upon them. Vander enjoys causing mischief and messing with others in order to absorb their pain and despair. He never was interested in harm. Doraccio and Gala were loyal to a fault and served him with unwavering loyalty, however that was destroyed when those monsters killed Gala, Doraccio, while letting him escape. And now the Demon Kings are returning. This is a real pain in the ass. Would you fight the Demon King? He turns to see the Supreme Deity's host. She had a passive look on her face and walked to him. She stood and then looked at Issei and Yukiko chatting like they were old friends. He's a strange person, isn't he? Bellion looked at them. The kid? Yeah, he's weird, but he's cool in a way. And to answer your question, yeah, I would face the Demon King. I'm sick of how he's always the big shot and doesn't mind sacrificing us as a means to an end. I may play the tough guy act, but truthfully, I'm weak. I can feel my powers draining from the wound that still hasn't healed yet. He looks into the distance. I'm not sure how much time I have left, but there's one thing I want to do before I die, and that's kicking the Demon King's ass. The Kami was still looking in the distance as she heard this. She closed her eyes and smiled. Then it's to have you fight with us, even though it's for a personal reason. And don't worry, we will defeat that monster. I have a feeling they're coming soon. Near the secret base. Naga, Alice, Morgan, Melascula and Derriere scouted an area near the base and made sure there were no enemies. Naga called a few snakes that were in the area and asked if they had seen anything, but sadly they didn't. Bellion joined them since he wanted some fresh air. Issei secretly told Naga to keep an eye on Bellion since he had a gut feeling something was wrong with him. I had my suspicions about him too, but he hasn't acted like the others we've seen, and it's even more strange that we haven't even seen any of the demons, golems, or even those undead. It's as if they're waiting for something. Unknown to them, someone was watching from afar. He was looking through a crystal ball and at the four individuals. Such an interesting turn of events, but still won't stop my plan. Now I think it's time to take my puppet strings and make him dance for me. He reaches into a box and pulls out a clay doll that looks like Bellion. Kill them all. Bellion's eyes glowed red as he stopped in his tracks. Naga and the others saw this. Hey, you okay? Bellion didn't respond. Melascula looked at his soul and then had a fearful face. That's not Bellion. She used her shadow to knock him away. Bellion was rolling on the ground until he stopped himself and stood up. Ready for transportation. Naga yelled. Bellion, what are you doing? Bellion's body moved as if he was in a trance. He picked up his sword and raised it to his heart. He was about to stab himself until Bellion used his will to throw his sword and stabbed Cusack, who appeared right behind him. Cusack spat out some blood before stabbing Bellion in his chest. The demon smirked as his wound began to heal after he took out the blade. My, such an awful mess. I do hate when I have to destroy my puppets, but I only needed him to make my entrance. A portal opened behind him as Chandler appeared before the girls. He gave a toothy grin as he looked at them. Ah. Derriere and Melascula. The two former wielders of the commandments purity and faith. I'm shocked to see two of the most powerful demons here aiding the heiress of the Basilisk clan. I'm surprised those serpents decided to finally leave that murky swamp. I was going to invade it and then eat them as a snack. And do my eyes deceive me? Alice and Morgan. Cusack stopped Chandler's rant before bowing to them. Apologies for the late introduction, my name is Cusack and the fat one here is called Chandler. Naga hissed her fangs as she asked the two demons. Why are you here? Making your next move. Cusack looked into her eyes and laughed. As expected of the Basilisk heiress, yes. We're here to take care of the last of the goddess race, and with my dolls in position I can attack that secret base of yours. Melascula scoffed at him. Those dolls will be destroyed by the ones guarding the entrance outside. Chandler smirked. Oh. We know about your boyfriend, but I believe the other dolls inside will take care of them quickly. Derriere ponders what he meant, but then was shocked. Some of them are already dolls, aren't they? Cusack applauded her. Yes. Most of those celestials are already under my control, and I'm afraid there's only two ways to defeat them. Kill me or kill them. He summoned his darkness and purple magic surrounded his eyes. Let's see how strong you really are. Naga, Derriere, and the others prepare for the fight. They knew they needed backup and fast, so Naga sent a quick message to her snakes. My serpents alert Issei of what's happening. Go. Now. The serpent slithered as fast as they could to Issei. With Issei and company. An explosion was heard near the area. Yukiko grabbed her sword. Issei, I'll go check out what happened. Get inside and defend the people. Issei nodded and saw Yukiko leap in the air and looked as if she was flying with ice surrounding her arms and legs. The snake wrapped around Issei's leg. What the? Wait, did Naga send you? The snake nodded and opened its mouth. Issei places his fist inside the mouth of the serpent and the snake bites it. The snake that bit Issei was one that gathers information, and when one receives it, they have to be bitten in order to receive it. Issei's eyes widened as the message was played before him. He ran back inside and saw a few of the Celestials were already in their undead doll form. Lupus, Gila, Jericho, Solid, and the Archangels were facing them. The Celestials that aren't undead make their way out of the base. Akemi sees this and helps the other Celestials that weren't possessed or undead escape while the other warriors hold off the undead. Issei has Rita drawn out and slices a few of the undead's heads off. There's no point in trying to talk some sense into them. They're already undead. They no longer have a conscience of their own, they only follow their orders. We need to kill them. That's the only mercy we can show them. Lupus and the rest of his group nod, while Solid and the Archangels are upset at the thought of killing their own people. The woman tried to stab Ludociel, but Issei intercepted the attack and killed the woman. Issei pushed Ludociel away. If you're not going to fight then leave with the others, we'll deal with them. Ludociel and the other Archangels turn and are about to leave until Serial flies back and uses the wind to slice up 3 of the undead. Serial looks away from them and says. He's right. We have to kill them. It's our job as Archangels to help the humans and our people, so let's do something about it. You can run if you want, but I'm fighting. Jericho uses her ice to freeze the undead feet while Gila and Mono sliced off the last of their heads. Issei stabs the one trying to grab his leg and sighs. Rest in peace, Celestials. He turns to see that Serial stayed behind while the others left. An explosion happened outside and shook the inside. Let's get out of here. Everyone ran to the entrance and made it outside. Naga, Melascula, and the other girls were heavily injured as they were defeated by their opponents. Wiz, Fanner, Akemi, Ludociel, and Tarmiel stare in shock as they see the 5 enemies stand above them. Solid was in Camilla's hand as he struggled, but she let him go, and he along with the winged sword fell out of her hand. Issei looks at them before seeing Cusack and Chandler. You two are the strongest ones, aren't you? What do you say we take this fight elsewhere? Are you fine with that? Just you two and me. All out. No holding back. The two smirked before Cusack nodded. Of course. Lead the way. Issei nodded before summoning his wings. He looked at the group and pointed a thumb at the 3. Take care of the others. They nodded as he took off with the other 2 demons following him. As the 3 began flying in the air, Issei summoned the boosted gear and began increasing his power before calling out Ascalon and Rita. He's practiced with dual wielding, but it was difficult since the blades were incredibly unbalanced. He aimed Ascalon towards the 2 and shouted. Arc. The 2 demons were increased by the prisons of light and they were struggling with the prison while the light ate at their flesh. Issei knew I would stall them for a while, but it would buy him enough time to get away. If I'm going to face those 2 then I need to go beyond my power. He looked at the sun and saw that there was only a little time left until that power activated. Once activated, I need to use explosion and use all of the power at once. It'll be my only shot to kill them. The 2 demons broke free and sped towards the dragon. Chandler fired lightning at him and it struck Issei in the back and sent him to the ground. Cusack brought out his sword and was about to stab him until Issei blocked it with Ascalon. He pushed the demon away and created mini versions of Cruel Sun and sent them to the demons. They exploded as each made contact with the 2. Issei checked the time again as he looked at the sun. 2 minutes left. I need to hold out for a bit longer. Issei raised his sword as he was staying on the defense while charging with the boosted gear. The 2 were impressed by the boy's abilities and think they can go all out. Be a grateful child that we're going to take this seriously. Don't hold back. If you do you'll surely perish, but it was an honor fighting you. May I have your name before we continue? Issei called forth his balance breaker and stabbed his sword into the earth. I am Issei Haidu. The Red Dragon Emperor and the Lion Sin of Pride. It's an honor to fight you both at your best. Chandler and Cusack changed as they became more like their demonic nature. Cusack grew much taller in stature, his arms grew longer, and his hands became larger, enough to hold both his sword hilts in between his fingers. His hair and mustache also grow and turn white. The color of his eyes became inverted. He also grew dragon-like wings from his shoulders. His demon mark was larger that extended down his cheek with the arrows converging together, and a mark grew on his chest forming a cross. Chandler grew much larger in stature along with more muscles with dark streaks on his arms. His hair turned black and the color of his eyes were inverted. His demon mark grew so large that it covered nearly half of his face. Finally, he grew large dragon-like wings from his shoulders. Issei saw this and knew even with that power it wouldn't be enough. Drake. I need to use that power. Drake's eyes widened. Are you insane? If you do it now it'll drain more of your lifespan. The one will use most of it as well as Juggernaut Drive. Not only that, but you'll only have one shot. So use it well. Issei nodded as he closed his eyes and concentrated. His body began to glow as his balance breaker became even larger. I, who shall awaken? I am the dragon that has stolen the principles of domination from God. His arms and legs became more of a dragon as he grew larger than before. I shall resurrect from the deep depths of the crimson darkness. His crimson aura began to rise, alerting the demons of their foe. The aura was so strong that the others began to feel it as well. I protect the infinite and bring the dream to reality. Issei began to spread his wings as the fire began to combine with his new form, giving him a new terrifying form. But the flames of rage, I shall incinerate everything on the earth and send all to the crimson depths of purgatory. He roared as he yelled. Juggernaut Drive. The fire and his aura grew as the two demons were amazed by the boy's new form. Chandler was amazed and began to laugh as he saw the boy begin his final attack. Incredible. Never have I seen such magical power in one person before in my life. So this is him. The dragon warrior that the Demon King predicted. Amazing. Cusack charged at the dragon, but Issei's eyes glowed as his claws sliced Cusack in half. Cusack groaned as he put himself back together. The two nodded before preparing their final attacks. Issei's chest opened as the words shouted into the heavens, and the gem in his chest grew and glowed as more power entered it. Boost. 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 The fire entered the gem as well, and the energy began to expand. The two demons launched their attack with all their magic, while Issei shouted. Longinus Smasher. The beam was fired, and it collided with the magical attack until it began to overpower the demon's attack. It envelops them and destroys all 7 of their hearts. The two stared in amazement as their bodies disintegrated. Apologies Lord Zeldris, but I'm afraid this is where I part ways with you, but I'll make sure you become the Demon King. The two were destroyed by their commandments and went to Zeldris, so the ritual could continue. The group was healing the wounded until they saw Issei return to normal and fall into Akemi's chest. Akemi blushed as he felt his breathing on her skin until she felt blood and how it kept spilling from him. She quickly began to heal him, but saw how much damage his body went through from the transformation. She didn't know how to heal him until Wiz came forward. I do know a spell to save him, but it's a risky one. Issei's girls looked at him before Yukiko asked. What has to be done? Wiz looked at the archangels until they nodded as they understood what she meant. He needs our magic. Since Sunshine is a grace, our magic will heal his body much faster, but that means we must give all of our power and life force to him. A sacrifice I'm willing to make. Akemi was shocked at the archangels until they nodded and bowed to their leader. Thank you, Your Majesty, for everything you have done for us. Wiz nodded and began the ritual. Spirits that have entered this world, lend your power and life to the soul to save his life. Ludociel, Serial, and Tarmiel became holy magic and entered the boy's body, and slowly his body began to heal. The magic envelopes him and his body begins to rise into the sky. Issei's eyes opened and 16 crimson angel wings appeared on his back, and his attire changed to that of a crimson archangel. Akemi was amazed as he descended to her lap and began to slowly wake up as his wounds began to heal. The girls saw this and were happy before the dog piling him and taking turns in him. The 3 former commandments were still held prisoner, but they could feel his power made them want to mate with him. Camilla was inwardly panting as her beastly instincts were screaming at her to break the binds and mate with him then and now. Easton felt her nether regions get wet as she imagined the dragon taking her captive and making her his liver, which turned her one and made her drenched in water from her own sweat. Roxy was panting and breathed deeply as she felt the power enter her body, making her hot and bothered. Solid was looking at Issei and thought he saw a true warrior angel before him. One who fought for righteousness and hope for the people. Why? Why can't I do anything? A hand was placed on his head and he looked up to see Issei with an understanding look on his face. Trust me. I've had that same question ever since I became a part of the supernatural world. I believed I wasn't doing anything to get stronger. Even with the power I've been given, I'm still weak and get beaten up because of my recklessness and for my desire to protect the ones I love. However, I will not fall. I have a mission to carry out and there are people who need protecting. I will continue to fight until the end. You can become strong too, Solid, but you need proper training and guidance, and I would be willing to help you. Akemi was amazed at how Issei didn't try to demoralize him, but tried to help him grow as an individual and as a warrior. I believe he can defeat the Demon King. Solid then presented the winged sword to him. Solid smiles in thanks but then gets on his knees. Issei Haidu. Please allow me to fight alongside you. The Demon King is coming, and I know I'm weak with little to no power, but I can't just stand by and do absolutely nothing. Please, I beg of you to train me to become stronger than I am now. Issei was surprised by this until Akemi stepped forward and offered her sword to Issei. I have a score to settle with the Demon King, so you can count on me helping you out defeating him. Wiz and Vanner came forward and pledged their loyalty to Issei and his team. Camila, Easton, and Roxy pledged themselves to him. They knew they were betraying Lilia but screwed it. Issei accepts their aid and looks back at the remaining Celestials. Listen to me. I know you all have lost many loved ones this day and no longer feel like fighting, but out there is a being who does not care for peace and love. He'll come and destroy all you have left. Your homes, your families, and even your power, so I ask you all. Are you going to just let him have his way? Are you not going to fight for your freedom? Will you just surrender? If you do, then he's already won the battle and the war. Fight to defend your loved ones, your friends and family. Fight and show everyone that the Celestials are not weak. I will train those who wish to fight and for those who don't want to stay and hope that we win. So any volunteers, or have you already given up everything? The Celestials looked at each other and didn't know what to do until a woman and a man stepped forward. We will fight, please train us so we can defeat the Demon King and his men, our master. Issei summoned Ascalon and tapped their shoulders. Rise. And from now on you're not Celestials. You're Celestials in training. Anyone else? The others looked at each other until many men and women stood up and walked to Issei. They pledged themselves to him and swords to fight and protect him in the battle against the Demon King. Issei was surprised and knew they didn't have much time, but with everyone's help, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. Today marks the alliance of many species putting aside their differences and coming together to fight a foe that threatens them all. Let us work together and fight together to banish the Demon King once and for all. Are you with me? They all cheered as Issei grinned and looked at his team. The final battle approaches. Let's begin. The dawn before the war has come. Lilia smirked as she saw the commandments before her. Soon I'll have absolute power. Valenti looked at her with a passive look on her face before turning to seize Eldris chained to a wall. Apologies, but I only serve Lilia and the Red Dragon. Lilia, as she poured the commandments into a pool and the magic began to mix with the water until it became dark purple and black. Lilia smirked until turning back to Valenti. Can I trust you to take care of the operation? Valenti nodded before wringing her forehead. Trust me. I'll handle everything. Go. Achieve your power. Lilia smiled as she dove into the water and she could feel the commandments combine with her soul and body, but before she passed out her eyes met a figure that shook her to the core of her soul. So you are the one who wishes to use my power. Let's see if you're truly worthy of it. She screamed internally as she felt the spirit trying to possess her and used her will to stay awake. No. I will become the strongest. Her body changed as her eyes glowed as well. I will conquer. Her magic grew as she had a sinister grin on her face. I will be the new Demon Queen. Prepare yourselves, 7 deadly sins. Lilia and Valenti were looking at the holy knights that were gathered before them. They had told them the sad fate of Hendrickson and Dreyfus. It is with a heavy heart that 2 of the greatest knights that had served this kingdom had fallen due to the traitors who killed them, but before they died, they asked me to take over as the new great holy knight. I will do my best to live up to their expectations and make sure that the 7 deadly sins will pay with their lives for taking away so many innocents. She raised a sword into the air and shouted, "Death to the 7 deadly sins." The knights cheered as well. Death to the 7 deadly sins. They deserve to perish. They've lived long enough. Lilia smiled as she saw that the knights were on her side and inwardly laughed at their naivety. These knights are easy to mess with. Play to their ego. Say a few encouraging words and then they'll do anything you say. Now for the corruption. Lilia nodded to Valenti as she nodded in return and passed our drinks to all of the holy knights. Lilia raised a glass to them and they raised one as well. To the future of lions and an end to our enemies. Long live lions. The knights raised their glasses and cheered. Long live lions. They then drank their glasses and many found the taste to be satisfying. Lilia smiled as she knew her plan was coming together. Now, we must prepare for battle. My assistant Valenti has told me that the 7 deadly sins will come and try to destroy our precious kingdom. We cannot let them win. We must evacuate the citizens and prepare for battle. This will be a battle for the ages. Sharpen your blades. Be fully rested. And be ready with your magic. In 3 days, they will attack. Doesn't give us much time, but we must win. For lions and its people. The knights cheered as they made their way to their homes and prepared for the battle that was to come. Lilia smiled as she went to her chambers with Valenti following her. That was a wonderful speech, Lilia. You truly do have them worked up. Lilia smiled and laid on her bed with Valenti putting Lilia's head in her lap. how's the new power treating you? It's been almost 2 weeks since you've absorbed the power. Valentia ran her hands through Lilia's hair and Lilia put her head into Valenti's stomach. I'm getting more control of my powers every day, but it's exhausting since when I go to sleep, he's always trying to take control of me. The commandments have almost fused with me fully. Once they've completely fused with me, then I will be able to have full control of the demons and become the demon queen. She then looked at Valentine's eyes and put her right hand on her cheek. With you at my side. Valenti smiled as she read Lilia's head and laid down next to them and put Lilia's head in her bust. The demon wizard blushed at the feeling of her lover's chest and snuggled into it more. You're the only person I could truly trust. Thank you, Valenti, for staying by my side. Valenti smiled as she had Lilia. I would sacrifice my own life and soul just for you, Lilia. I love you. The two lovers slept in their bed, mentally preparing for the next few days. Whether they succeeded or not, Valenti would always be there for the woman she loved with her life. But Issei and company. Issei was observing the angels as they fought each other, and the dragon was proud to say that they've made vast improvements since their first day of training. The 7 deadly sins reunited with Issei and told them of their adventures that they've had since they've separated. Meliodas explained to Issei his past and what he had to go through to get his power back. The two sparred with each other and Issei barely won, and he had been training and using the holy powers he received with his sunlight magic and the boosted gear. The others had been vastly improving as well in their physical strength and their magical powers. Wiz and Vander were good at helping Gila with her demonic powers and how to properly control her enhanced magic. Jericho, Yukiko, and Lupus Regina have been helping each other improve their swordsmanship and their combat prowess. Naga had been practicing attacking from underground, using her serpents to fight and using poison in battle. Morrigan had been helping the Celestials get stronger physically, Alice was using her scythe to help them get better in weapons training, and as for Melascula and Derriere, the two of them were helping Diane and King increase in power, defense, and combo moves. The Kemi was a great tutor when it came to helping Issei learn how to use the other blessings that he received from them and was able to enjoy fighting someone stronger than him. The supreme deity wanted to remove the curse on Meliodas, but he refused until they saved Elizabeth first, and then he wanted his removal. Akemi respected his wishes and continued to help Meliodas get ready for the fight. Issei was resting after a good workout and opened a communication network with his spies on the inside. Hey, Mono. Gother. Anything happening? The wait was for a few minutes until Momo responded. Unfortunately, we just received news. They are preparing for your arrival. Lilia must have known about Elizabeth's curse and allowed her to receive all of her past memories. Which means the clocks are ticking. Issei sighed as he knew this would happen. She's persistent. I'll give her that. What about Gother and the others? Mono showed him that Roxy, Easton, Camila and Gother were preparing for battle against their former leader. We'll be ready to assist you when you and the others arrive. Be careful, I have a feeling she's almost fused with the 10 commandments. You must make haste and hurry. We only have 2 days left. Issei nodded in confirmation and said farewell to them before cancelling the magic. I need to inform the others as soon as possible. That night the others were surrounding a large table with a map of the Castle of Lions. Issei stood at the front where the north gate was located. I just received word from my spies and according to them, Lilia is preparing for us, and if what they told me was true, then the Holy Knights will transform into demonic knights during the fight and no doubt people will be killed during their transformations. I've also received confirmation that the king is fine, but Hendrickson and Dreyfus are dead. The others gasped as they heard that the 2 great holy knights were killed. Issei saw their reaction and calmed them down. Listen, we have a way to save the knights and possibly defeat Lilia. He pointed to the north gate. We will launch 2 attacks. One in the north and one in the south. He looked at Meliodas and the demon nodded. You, Ban, Diane, myself, King and Akemi will go underground to the bottom of the castle and meet with Mono, Gother, and the others inside the castle. Naga. You and Yukiko, along with Jericho and Gila, will lead the army that'll be attacking the north gate. Push them back with all you have. Let loose. The girls grinned as they were getting excited for the fight. Issei then pointed to the south gate. The ones who lead the southern army will be Solid and Banner. You two will lead the Celestials and others. So Alice, Morrigan, Melascula, Derriere, you'll be working with them. Alice hugged him and gave him puppy eyes. Call us when you need help. Promise us you'll come back. Issei looked at the girls and nodded before petting Alice's head. Don't worry. I promise I will come back. He looked at Meliodas and asked if he missed anything, but he shook his head. It's a good plan. We're with you until the end. Issei was thankful for the trust Meliodas put in him, and the dragon was learning to trust him again. Thank you. He then looked at the others. We've all come a long way in these past few years. We've all had to go through many trials. Some went through harder trials than others, but we are here, standing strong and in the face of adversity. Every action we have taken leads us forward through the unknown where uncertainty lies ahead. He paused for a moment, looking towards everyone. But we will prevail. We will fight and continue to fight until we succeed, because that is why we are here. To save lions and the land of our homes and loved ones. So I ask you all. Are you ready? The others smiled at the encouraging words and nodded before cheering loudly. Issei smiled as he saw their spirits were raised and mentally prepared himself. I guess this is what they mean when they say sound the war cry. We can't lose. Many people are counting on us. He looked at the hidden objective in the back of the room. Including her life. I promise Meliodas. I will save her and the curse shall be lifted from her. You both deserve happiness. The next day. The Lions battlefield. Issei and his team were going underground and making their way to their target. He then spoke to the teams. North Group. South Group. Are you both in position? Solid was looking at the castle with his wings out and ready to fight as he responded. South Team. Ready. Yukiko was in position with the lamias that were with her army. North Team. Ready. Can we raise hell on them? Issei was about to respond until Diane spoke to him. We made it to them. We need to get going. I'm not sure how long those shrink spores are going to last. Issei nodded and quickly responded. Give them hell. Yukiko smiled as she looked at them. You heard him. Ready the catapults. Naga and the others pulled the catapults in position. Ready. They readied the cannons. Aim. The Holy Knight saw this. Warn Lady Lilia. They're here. The 7 deadly sins and their comrades are here. Sound the alarm. Yukiko smirked at them and yelled. Fire. They unleashed the barrage and giant balls of ice were launched into the sky. The knights near the castle walls and gate took cover as they got closer until the bale of ice made impact and exploded. Yukiko smiled at the damage done to the castle until she looked at them. Reload while they get their men together. We need to draw them out and until the signal is given, we have to push them back. She looked at the south and pondered aloud. I hope Solid remembers what to do. Solid looked at the explosions and nodded. Okay, there's the signal. He looked at the others. Archers. Take your positions. The celestial archers took their positions and waited until the gates were opened and knights along with red, gray, orange, and blue demons came out of the gate. Wiz and Solid were surprised to see humans and demons working together until Vanner spoke. They are under hypnosis spell. The Holy Knights would never work with demons and they don't reek of fear. All of them are under a spell where they are the demons as allies. We must make haste and meet the others on the inside soon. He looked at Solid and nodded. Give the orders. The Celestial nodded. Ready. The archers aimed at the knights and demons as they charged in. Aim. The demons roared as the knights raised their swords. Fire. The Celestials let loose and a volley of holy arrows rained from the sky and struck many of the larger demons rather than the smaller ones. Vanner grinned as he used his death ray to take out the big ones while Wiz used ice to freeze the smaller demons. Alice and the others were readying themselves as Solid saw more demons come out of the castle and he nodded to them. All forces. Attack. The demons and archangels roared as they charged into battle. Alice and the others leapt into the middle of the fight and began to kill multiple demons. The knights were clashing with the celestials and the holy knights were knocked out instead of being killed. Lilia was told of what was happening inside. They're here a day early. Guess must want to save Elizabeth that badly. Well, if it's a fight they want, then let's give them a fight. She smiled wickedly as she looked at the hearts in her hands. Hendrickson. Dreyfus. Rise and assist my army. Destroy all who stand in your way, be their ally or foe. Crush them under your feet and make them feel fear. The 2 undead knights nodded as they went to assist the armies at her disposal. Lilia rubbed her forehead to alleviate the headache she was getting. This isn't good. The power still hasn't fully fused with me yet. I need more time. She looked at Valenti. Activate the barrier. Keep our soldiers and their armies outside. Valenti nodded as she went to the tower where her workshop resided and took out the crystal ball. The ball glowed magenta as smoke filled it. Let's begin. She glowed as she began chanting. Hear me, O merciful Earth Mother. Hear my prayer and bless us with divine protection. The ball shined brightly as the barrier was formed outside of the castle and Solid was shocked by it and informed Yukiko of it. Yukiko glares at it while looking at the battlefield. They're probably buying time for that woman until she fully becomes a demon. And I can't get a hold of Issei. The barrier must be blocking out communications. She focused on the field and saw someone appear in the middle of the army. Yukiko smirked widely as she saw the former Great Holy Knight. This will prove to me more fun. She looks at Naga and the Lamia understands before Yukiko leaped into the battle and drew her rapier. She used the ice to skate across the battlefield while killing demons and humans. They're in my way. She smirks at Dreyfus as he pulls out his sword and charges in. Yukiko laughed as she prepared for a fun battle. Good luck, Issei. It's all up to you now. Solid was currently in his own battle between the Holy Knight Hendrickson. So this is what's become of you? He fires an arc at the knight and the undead roars in pain, but the spell ended with him still standing there. He glares haughtily at the celestial before charging at him. Solid meets him with a winged sword and blocks it before using holy magic in his blade. Solid yelled. Holy smite. The winged sword cut the blade in half and the knight was cut by the strike. Hendrickson's body sizzled as it began to decay a little because of the holy magic destroying part of his body. Solid grinned before remembering something Issei told him. Don't get arrogant or why just because you landed a blow on your opponent. It gets you to drop your guard and then you're dead. Wait until the battle is over and then celebrate. Focus and watch your opponent carefully. Solid charged at him and blocked Thestric being sent his way. Predict his next move. He got the knight unarmed and thrusted forward. Act fast. Solid grunted as he stabbed the inside of the undead knight and for a brief moment he felt pity for the knight. I'm sorry but I hope you can rest in peace. He glares at the knight before charging his sword with holy magic and the knight yelled in pain as his body began to be annihilated. A bright light covered the southern battlefield and all of the demons roared in pain as the light consumed them as well. When the light died, the two armies looked at Solid to see that he had in total 6 wings now and a halo was over his head. He looked at his new wings and felt a new surge of power flow through his body. He closed his eyes and looked at the holy knights who were released from the hypnosis and they stared in awe at the celestial before them. Solid lifted his sword and called out to them. Holy Knights of Lions. I ask you to listen to me when I say that the woman Lilia has lied to you and had been using you as her pawns from the start. She does not care about your families, friends or loved ones. Right now she is in the castle, attempting to awaken the Demon King. I ask you all to aid us in taking her off the throne and do what you are supposed to do as knights. Protect your people. Isn't that why the Holy Knights were created? To protect others or did many of you do it just for money and fame? If that's the case then you're no knight. You're a thief who steals from the people rather than give the care for them. The Holy Knights looked at their hands and swords and mentally berated themselves for the promise they made to their king when they became knights. A vow of loyalty their ass. They were betraying the very king who was wise, caring for his fellow men, and showed mercy to those as well. One knight stepped forward to Solid and presented his sword before bowing to him. I swear to lend you my strength. Allow me to repent for my misdeeds by aiding your army in this battle. Solid took the sword and tapped the knight's shoulders. Stand and aid us in our battle. Anyone else? The other knights looked at each other before nodding. They bowed to Solid and the archangel nodded as he stepped forward and raised his sword. Now to battle. We shall aid the northern army and crush the demons who are in our way, also saving our brothers and sisters. Are you with me? The knights cheered as they began to follow Solid to the northern gate in order to aid Yukiko. Yukiko was clashing with Dreyfus and wiped some blood from her lips before smiling at the battle horn. Seems the cavalry's arrived. She looked at her army and yelled. Reinforcements have arrived. Push through and run them down. The army yelled as they began to fight back with their new strength. Yukiko smiled as she met Solid and the two charged at Dreyfus, hoping to end the battle soon and assist Issei and the others in their own battle. But Issei and company. Issei, the 7 deadly sins, and the others met up with Mono, Gother, Roxy, Easton, and Camilla. They were making their way through the castle grounds when they saw demons appear from the sidelines, but these weren't ordinary demons. They were wearing human clothing, which meant they were originally human before becoming demons. Meliodas and the others were shocked until a few steps were heard from the path in front of them. The demons separated and the woman known as Valenti walked towards them. My. You've certainly caused a ruckus for us. I'm surprised to see the 3 of you here with the red dragon. I thought you 3 were killed like those 2 old demons. Camilla got in front of them and raised her fists. Valenti. You are a friend of mine, so I ask you to move at once so we can confront Lilia and stop the Demon King from appearing. You and I both know that she won't be able to use all of that power. Valenti looks at them and took off her glasses. I'm sorry but I can't do that. The ground began to break apart as 2 fists of earth were formed in the air. I promised Lilia that I would stop anyone who's going to get in her way, and that's what I'm going to do. She looked at them and did a few hand signs before slamming them to the earth. Let's have a more suitable battlefield. The earth began to move as the others were beginning to get separated until Issei, Akemi, and Meliodas were pulled into Camilla's arms. You 3 need to get going. We'll hold her off as long as we can. This is all on you 3. Roxy grinned as she slammed her mace into the ground and sent Camilla up into the air before she mustered all of her strength and threw the 3 towards the castle. Valenti was about to order the demons to stop them, but a water spear flew and killed the demon. Easton grinned as she looked at her old friend. Sorry but that's not going to happen. Time for you to play with us, so get ready, egghead. Valenti cursed to herself as she looked at the team. Very well, then you want me to get serious. Her eyes glowed red as she glares at them. Then your wish shall be granted. She reaches into her pouch and pulls out a vial that had a liquid inside of it that was red like blood. I may not be a member of the Giants, but thanks to my connection to Earth magic, I can become one. She drinks the vial in one go and threw it away. Her body began to grow as she screamed by the power flowing into her bloodstream. Diane and the others saw this. Diane concentrated as she broke the shrink spell that Issei put on her. Diane and Valenti grew as the two were now the same height. They glared at each other as they prepared to fight. Let's do this. The two charged at each and began to clash in a battle of fists and strength. Diane and the others were amazed by this until the demons started to charge at them. King and the others were ready for the fight of their life. Issei and his team hit the wall and made a massive hole in it. The three groaned as they got up and looked around the throne room to see no one but one person in the room. She looked at them and tilted her head. So you finally arrived. I've been waiting for at least one of you to show up. But now that you're here I must warn you. We don't have much time. There was a woman in front of the throne of the king. She was garbed in regal light red holy knight armor with a long dress and wore an unique helmet resembling hands enclosing on her face with one visor. She was wielding an unusually large claw-like staff in her hands. The Kemi got up and looked at her before having a shocked face. It's you. But how are you here? And why do you look like someone else? Issei and Meliodas were confused until the girl snorted before laughing at the goddess until she reached for her helmet. I figured that you would see past my armor that's kept me hidden this whole time. She took off the helmet to reveal herself to the group before her. Issei was taken back by the woman's long black hair that reached the bottom of her neck, amber eyes like gold and her eyes that were tainted by curiosity that's never ending. Her armor also changed to that of a highly revealing and open fur-collared long coat with heart-shaped arms, short shorts that resemble panties with a heart on it, and thigh-high boots. Issei was blushing from the revealing outfit and the wizard saw this and smiled mischievously at the lion's sin. She sauntered over to him and made sure her chest bounced as she walked to him. Issei swallows his saliva as he looked away until her hands turned his face towards her. She looked into his eyes that had a certain fire that she had seen before. Her eyes widened until she turned him around and looked at his back. So it's true. You truly are the new wielder of sunshine. The new lion's sin of pride. Issei nodded and looked at her face before noticing a tattoo on her neck. He looked at it and saw that it was a boar. He recalled seeing the wanted posters until his eyes widened. Wait a minute. You're Merlin. The boar sin of gluttony and the one who deceived the demon king and the supreme deity. Merlin smiled at him before nodding. To make your acquaintance. May I have your name as well, little boy? Issei looked at her seriously before responding. My name isn't boy. It's Issei. Issei Haidu. The Red Dragon Emperor and the Lion Sin of Pride. Merlin saw that he had traces of a dragon in him, but also saw a large amount of holy magic within him. I see there's more to you than meets the eye. I'm happy to see you as well, Captain, but we can't sit for drinks right now. We have my troublesome apprentice to save. Issei was surprised before asking. Wait. She's your apprentice, then why didn't you stop her earlier? Merlin sighed. It wasn't easy since I had to play my role as pretending to be a mage loyal to the kingdom instead of Merlin, the fugitive. I watched as they prepared for this day, and she's almost fully a demon. We need to stop her and fast. Meliodas nodded. Okay. Can you get us there, Merlin? She smiled. Of course. The four were then teleported to the room where Lilia was embracing the darkness. Merlin hit the door to reveal that it was surrounded by a barrier. Merlin scoffed at it before grabbing the handles. You underestimate me, my apprentice. Absolute cancel. Merlin pulled the doors open and the barrier was broken. Issei was amazed by her power until she smiled. Let's move. The ground was shaking due to the fighting outside, and suddenly the sound of a tower being destroyed echoed through the castle. Valenti and Diane were wrestling until Valenti kicked her in the stomach. She gasped as the barrier fell and the armies began to charge in. Diane took the opportunity to sucker punch the alchemist in the face and used her hammer to send her flying to the east part of the castle. She got the ground with a giant thud as dust and dirt flew in the air for a while until she began to shrink down to her original size. Valenti looked at Diane and King approaching her until she began to lose consciousness. I'm sorry, Lilia. Forgive me. Lilia felt Valenti fall as she sat in her room on a fancy chair. She was looking out to see the armies destroy the demons and make their way to the castle. She turned to see Merlin, Issei, Meliodas, and Akemi standing at her door. Don't you know it's rude to barge in a woman's room? What if I was changing you naughty boys and old hags? Akemi had a tick mark on her head, but Issei calmed her down. Merlin aimed a spell at Lilia. You've lost, Lilia. Surrender and let us take those commandments out of you. Lilia smiled as she got up and her body began to change into a more voluptuous one with a similar attire like Merlin's. Her hair grew a bit longer to the bottom of her neck and became white as a sheet of paper, but with tints of pink at the ends of it. Her eyes became red like a fire as did her nails. But why Merlin? I'm enjoying this power so much. Her aura grew as she glared at them. Why don't I show you what I'm truly capable of? Merlin cast perfect cube and protected them, but Lilia smiled. Say goodbye. She held out her right hand and a ball of darkness appeared. Pandora. The ball exploded as the castle was enveloped in darkness. Velascula and Derriere were killing demons until they felt a massive burst of power. The castle exploded as the darkness enveloped them, the others, demons, humans, and celestials. The darkness stayed where it was at, acting as a dome over the whole kingdom until it fell and destruction was left behind. The houses and castle were left in ruins. The bodies of demons, celestials, and humans were killed as they were scattered across the land. Diane slowly got up as she let down her armor, and the other sins were safe from harm. Velascula let down her cocoon of darkness and revealed that she, Derriere, Alice, Morgan, Wiz, and Vanner were alright. Solid let down a holy barrier that he used to protect himself. Yukiko broke her ice barrier and revealed that she, Gila, Jericho, Naga, Momo, Gother, Valenti, Camila, Roxy, and Easton were alright. They all saw where the castle used to be and revealed Lilia standing in the center of the crater with a large shadow snake wrapped around her as it rubbed gently against her hand. Merlin was drained as she panted heavily due to the stress of using so much magic to protect herself and the others. Akemi was next to her while Meliodas and Issei were still standing. Lilia was impressed by the number of survivors. Interesting. I expected more bodies, but it would seem that many of the knights are still safe on the outside where the gates were. But it seems that the main players in this battle are still here. Now then. She went into a pondering phase. Who to kill first? She looked to see that Elizabeth was still alive thanks to Solid's barrier. Lilia smirked until she flew past the other and aimed her snake at her. Of course. Meliodas' weak spot. The girl. Elizabeth was so frightened that she couldn't move. Lilia smiled as she lunged her hand towards her and struck her target. Shink. Lilia's joyful face turned to a shocked one as she saw Akemi in front of her. Akemi smiled as she felt blood leave her mouth. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness for what I did to you and your lover, but at least I can do something right for my daughter. My only regret is that it took death to realize my deepest regret. She blasted Lilia with a burst of holy magic and the demon queen was sent to the hills. Akemi fell as she coughed up blood and Elizabeth caught her. Wait. You're my mother. Akemi smiled as she looked at her daughter's face and saw the similarities between them. When did you become so beautiful, my child? She laughed at herself as she laid in her arms dying. Issei rushed over to her and attempted to heal her, but Akemi grabbed his hand. It's too late for me. But listen to me, Issei. Your other form is much stronger than you think. If you combine it with your dragon powers, then you can destroy the Demon King and save the girl. But that is solely up to you. And breathed deeply as Solid flew to them and he held her hand. Akemi smiled as she looked at the girl's memories and then at the man she loved. Solid. She pulled the boy into a which shocked the bystanders until she pulled back. That was what she wanted to tell you. She wanted to tell you that she loved you. I'm happy I could make that girl's dream come true and I'm sorry. Solid cried until he felt the hand go limp as the supreme deity's soul left the body and went into the winged sword. The blade glowed brightly as Solid looked at it before handing it to Issei. Take it. Use the power that is meant for you. Issei looked at Solid before nodding. Thank you, Solid. He took the winged sword and when the power flowed into his body, Issei felt warm. Lilia was pulled towards a strong source of power and was caught in Issei's left hand. Lilia squirmed in his grasp until he tapped her forehead. The Demon King's mark appeared on her forehead and her eyes became dark and purple. Issei looked at them calmly and spoke. Leave her. Enter me instead. I will bring forth your true power. Lilia's face changed to one of a twisted smile before a black and purple liquid left her and went towards Issei's body. He was covered in the darkness which worried others until the liquid went inside of his body. Issei looked at himself before looking at the sky. I'll be back. He used his dragon wings and flew into the sky and went higher and higher. He didn't stop because he knew that if anyone was around him when this transformation happened, then no one would live. Issei looked at the spirits in front of him. There were two sides that were looking at him. On the left side were the archangels, Escanor, and the supreme deity. They all looked at Issei while on the right side was the Demon King and the other wielders of the 10 Commandments. The two sides glared at each other, but Issei was in the middle. Issei had a reason for this, but knew it was a risky gamble as well. This eternal war must end. The world has changed and I can't understand the hatred towards each other, but all of this truly started when Meliodas and Elizabeth were in love with each other. I can see as their parents you were disgusted to see your flesh and blood fall for their bitter enemies. I'm not a god, some hero from a great bloodline, nor am I some kind of legend. I'm a human. A member of a species that both of your races look down upon, and yet here is one human who held a blessing that was originally one for the archangels. So I ask that you allow me to give the power of the Demon King to Meliodas. Out of all of us, he deserves it most. The Demon King grumbled and muttered to himself while the archangels were near Issei to protect him. The king raised his hand and reached for Issei. The others tried to protect him, but Issei stopped them. He let the Demon King pick him up and brought him to his face. "Tell me, boy, what would you do with all of the power you gained?" Issei stood his ground as he looked at the Demon King's eyes and responded. "Free Meliodas and Elizabeth from the curses that the two of you placed on both of them. After that, I intend to help bring peace to the land for all of the races." The Demon King laughed at the boy in his hand and spoke. "You would use your power to bring peace and protect others instead of using the power to make others fear you? Ha 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 ha. How laughable." Issei grew annoyed and asked. "Power is meaningless unless it's used, so let me ask you something. If you're so great and powerful, why do you have your sons and underkings do the dirty work for you? You say you're all powerful, and yet you haven't even tried to inflict harm to others. Is it because you were scared of your sons rebelling against you?" The Demon King growled as he looked at him. "Don't speak as if you know what it means to be a king. You are no king. In any world, power defines your status, strength, and how others fear you. Rule through fear and oppression is how th world must be run. The strong on a mighty throne while the weak perish and serve as the slaves they are." Issei glares at him. "And yet your weak son forced you to use a curse on his girlfriend because for that moment you felt fear enter you. That's why you cursed her, because you needed a way to strike fear back into Meliodas and you wish to never feel that same feeling again, but even now you still feel fear in you." Issei points to the demon's right hand and the king sees that he did feel fear. The king growls at him before lifting his arm to crush him, but Issei stopped it. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't your world, this is my soul and my mind." The Demon King felt small as Issei was in the balance breaker and began to punch the Demon King relentlessly. "And here. I am king. I am strong and you are weak." The king was shocked until Issei punched him to the ground. "Your war had ended 3,000 years ago and now it's time for a change." The dragon appeared behind him and the Demon King was frightened by this until both of them roared. The sound wave hit the king with fear. "So this is what fear feels like." The dragon swallowed him whole as Issei looked at the archangels and closed his eyes. He concentrated on the holy and demonic powers in him. Memories of his time here and back home went through his mind as he smiled at the good times, bad times, and many more of them as they made Issei who he was today. Then his friends both old and new went into his mind and he clenched his fists as he opened them again. Merlin and the others were waiting for him to return until a giant burst of power erupted in the sky. Merlin and Meliodas felt as they were aware of this power. "He's done it. I can't believe it." The others were wondering what they were talking about until they heard a loud roar and a voice that broke the heavens. "Through Welsh Dragon King Emperor." A bright beam fell from the sky and went into the center of it. The beam was a mixture of red, purple, and white. A figure flew down from the sky and the wings were a combination of dragon, demonic, and angelic wings. There were 12 wings in total, 4 of each. Issei's armor changed once again, but this time it was a bit more lean, while being a bit bulky on the chest, while his shoulders had shoulder pads that were sticking out, with a cape now floating with the wind, with a dragon symbol that was painted white and black to represent both light and darkness. The armor to the legs were a bit bulky, but on the knees were spikes that were going up, next were the arms that were a bit bulky on the wrist, along with it there were tiny horns on the side of his head, with a small ring above his head. The final part of his new armor was that there were white and black lines from where the green gems were, which were on the knees, shoulders, hands, and in the middle of his chest, making everyone look at Issei's new armor in awe, while Merlin looked interested. How intriguing. A combination of holy, demonic, and draconic elements. Truly a miracle transformation indeed. Issei smiled at her before looking at Meliodas. "Meliodas. I can remove the curses on you and Elizabeth. Please give me your hands." Meliodas and Elizabeth did so, and Issei closed his eyes while letting his wings glow bright red. The aura then stretched out to Elizabeth and Meliodas. The two were in awe of the power surging through them. The two curses were revealed until they began to disintegrate and leave the two of them. Issei smiled until he was sure they were gone. He then let them go, and the two lovers embraced each other in their arms, while Issei looked at the ruined castle and taped his foot. The buildings began to reassemble themselves, and the onlookers were astonished before Issei's armor disappeared and he fell into Merlin's arms. She chuckled as she rubbed her hand against his hair. Merlin smiled at him until seeing the unconscious bodies of Valenti and Lilia. "There's much that must be done." Issei nodded in return. "You're correct. We have won the war, but now it's time to bring peace across the kingdom. It won't be easy, but I intend to do all I can to help this world achieve peace. I ask you all, will you help us?" The others nodded as they smiled. The war was over and now it was time to celebrate. Tomorrow would be a busy day for them all. In the boar's hat was a young man with dark brown hair and eyes. The man was cleaning the outside of the bar since the former master of the tavern passed it on to him after he decided to retire from the business so he and his wife would become the rulers of Lions. The bar door opened to reveal a certain red-headed girl with 2 braids that reached to her middle back. She had her maid uniform on and smiled as she wrapped her arms around her master. Issei. My master. Issei smiled as he turned to her and at her lips. The two moaned as they wrestled with their tongues until a weapon hit Lupus Regina on the head. Wham! Lupus had a bump on her head as she turned to see Mono hold a broom in her hand. Release Issei, horny dog. Lupus glares at the silent doll and growled at her. Listen you brat. I'm masters first so it's only fair I spend more time with him than you. Mono rose a brow and pushed her chest forward with her arms. This coming from the girl who's trying to get out of work. Lupus was scared as Issei looked at her accusingly before Lupus Regina put her head down. Okay, I'll get back to cleaning, but we do have to make it to others. After all, today is the 10-year anniversary since the war ended. Issei nodded and looked at the sky. It's hard to believe it's only been 10 years. I'm glad we were finally able to achieve peace between the races. It wasn't easy, but we made it work. Mono and Lupus smiled as they remembered the hardships they went through until a blast of water hit the dragon. Issei turns to the user and saw a certain turquoise-haired girl with a certain magenta-haired woman. They wore maid outfits as well, and the former was glaring at them, while the latter looked as if she was holding in a laugh. Hey. Well, we're busy cleaning, you 3 are slacking off. Come on, we're on a schedule. Issei snickered as he remembered Easton and Camila joined the Boar's Hat after the final battle. Many people did die that day, but there were still many of the civilians and holy knights who were still alive after the battle. The king was actually protected thanks to Merlin sending him to his brother. Issei and Merlin were able to repair all of the damage done to the kingdom before returning the king. Meliodas and the 7 deadly sins were pardoned from their crimes that they were framed for and thanked for all they've done for the kingdom. Lilia and Valenti were brought before the king and they pleaded they were guilty and didn't even try to defend themselves. Issei saw the guilt in their eyes and sighed. Issei quickly had a suggestion for the king and the court. Lilia and Valenti would be doing community service to the kingdom while also helping at tavern. Issei was actually given the Boar's Hat by Meliodas since he said that he would take the crown and rule the kingdom, but after he and Elizabeth went on a long vacation first. Anne wanted to go travel with Elaine, who was brought back to life thanks to Issei. King and Diane decided to rule over the giants and the fairies as one. The two had actually gotten closer since their separation from Issei's group. Merlin wanted to stay with Issei and help establish peace in the kingdom. Zeldris was found by Merlin as well, and at first Zeldris was mad at Meliodas for his betrayal until his brother and him fought outside the castle and settled the score with Meliodas winning the fight. Zeldris was then asked to help establish a peace treaty between the races as well since the war ended. Zeldris would comply, especially since his love, the vampire, came back to his life and brought out the emotions that he kept tucked away. Solid and the remaining archangels were more than happy to establish peace between the species since they did believe it was time for a change. Solid was even given the title of being the ruler of the Celestials, while he and a council were formed so there would be a second opinion on the matters during the conferences and the treaty. Issei decided to for a bit and see the rest of the world he was unable to see due to the war. Naga wanted to go back home for a while and tell her mother the news, while Jericho and Gila wished to help the next generation of Holy Knights prepare to take over for them. So that left Issei, Lupus Regina, Momo, Easton, Camila, and Gother joined as well. Morrigan, Melascula, Derriere, and Alice were asked by Zeldris to help establish peace between the species, which they accepted after telling Issei about, and he agreed with the proposal. Many years passed and Issei had learned to master his holy, demonic, and draconic powers as one. He offered to give the 10 commandments back to Zeldris, but he denied them, saying that they corrupted many people for far too long and he trusted the dragon to deal with its power. After traveling, Issei had gotten closer to the others as they traveled and enjoyed their company. He did write letters to lions and sent magic letters to Meliodas and the others. He even visited a few old places like Salem and her wife as they were back from their honeymoon and had a child on the way. Issei and the others were happy for them as they threw a party in their child's honor. Issei really enjoyed learning the ropes of the business and making new beer that made even Camila and Lupus Regina pass out after one swig. Issei truly did enjoy his life here in this world but was worried about his home. He had worried about Riaz and the others but wasn't sure how he could get back. He wanted to take the others with him but didn't know how since, like Loki said, only Office and Great Red could open the portal back home. Not even Merlin had a way to help him back home, which had him stumped for a while, but he had the others to help him when he was feeling down. Issei put away the broom as he got ready to brew the beer and prepare for the anniversary party. After the party, Issei and his group were in the tavern wasted as they enjoyed the festivities and the celebration of the peace between the races. Zeldris became the official ruler of the demons, Solid, the ruler of the archangels. Naga's mother was still around, so she remained the leader of the tribe. Meliodas was the ruler of lions, and Diane and King were the leaders of the giants and fairies. The party was a lot of fun, and many people were happy as they celebrated peace in their kingdoms. Ban and Elaine got married and were going to have a child, which made them happy, while Elizabeth, Zelda's wife, and Solid's wife, were going to have a child as well. Issei was happy for them all, but seeing them happy as a group reminded him of the orc and the insane antics they were in most of the time. It wasn't perfect, but he still enjoyed it so much. He was wiping the glass until he pondered. I wonder how they're doing right now. The door opens as a large figure steps in. The figure moved around the drunken folk and laughed lightly as he sat at the bar. I need a strong drink. One of your most expensive ones. He slapped money on the desk, and Issei took it before preparing the drink and giving it to the man. This is our most popular one. Dragon's breath. The man sniffed it before chugging it down, and the man liked it a lot. Amazing. I like this very much. Thank you. A tiny hand hit the man's leg as he sighed. Yeah, and get a juice for the youngling. Issei looked over to see a tiny lowly girl who had purple hair and clothes who resembled a gothic lowly. The girl had a pouting face as she looked at the man before turning to Issei. I would like the same drink as him. Issei rubbed the back of his head before saying. Sorry, but that's not for children. The girl growls at him before a purple aura envelops her, and she greeted that of a mature woman. Am I old enough now? Issei was shocked by the girl before silently nodding. He prepared the drink and gave it to her. The woman thanked him before taking a swig, and her face was red before she coughed at the burning taste. Issei helped her as the man laughed at her. Told you that you couldn't take it. The girl stopped as she looked at the man with a glare with red cheeks. I can take it. She struggled as she took a small sip of it before she saw a glass of water in front of her. She looked at Issei and silently thanked him before returning to his drink. Can I get you guys anything to eat? Here's the menu. The man took it and looked it over until he nodded. I'll take the pork on rice bowl and a kid's meal for her. Ha 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 ha. Ouch. He glares at the girl who had an innocent expression on her face as she looked at the menu. I'll have the boar's hat special. Issei nodded and quickly got to work. Both the man and woman were amazed at the speed and skills the man had as he cooked in the kitchen. A few minutes later, Issei came out with the meals and gave them to the duo waiting. Here's your meal. Enjoy. They nodded in thanks until the man ate his meal like it was a blessing from the gods, while Lafis enjoyed it truly as she made sure to lick her plate clean of all stains. The man laughed as he complimented on the meal. Not bad. Not bad at all. You'd make a killing with those skills. The woman nodded as she looked at him and smiled a small one. It's good to see that you're doing well. I'm sure the Gremory girl will be happy to see you as well. Issei stopped cleaning until he looked at the duo. He had his hands underneath the bar as he conjured a sword of light. How do you know that name? Are you with them? The woman shook her head. No, we're not, so please put away that sword you have so we can talk. Issei looked at him before silently putting the sword away. Start talking. The man put down his finished bowl and smiled. We know who you are because we're here to take you back to your world. Issei's eyes widened as he heard this and asked. But the only ones who can do that are Great Red and Office. He was shocked until he pointed to them, and the man smiled. To meet you, Issei Haidu. Issei couldn't believe that the two strongest beings of his world were here in front of him. Wait. You mean I can go back home? The dragon nodded. Issei was happy until realizing he'd have to say goodbye to the others. He looked at them and asked. Can I say goodbye first before leaving? Red nodded. Of course you can. It's only fair that you say your farewells to your allies and friends you made. Issei thanked him before the two left the tavern. Issei was happy to be able to go back home, but was worried about the others. I'll tell them tomorrow. The next day. Issei was in the king's castle as he was surrounded by his friends that he made there and told them the news. Great Red and Office introduced themselves at the meeting, and they were shocked. Elizabeth asked. You plan on going home? Issei looked at them and nodded. I do. I am happy to be with all of you here, and I truly appreciate everything that you've all done for me, but I can't leave my home when I know they need me. He bowed to them all and apologized. I'm sorry, but I want to go back and protect the ones I love there as well. I'm sorry. Meliodas looked at him with a blank look and walked over to him before putting a hand on his shoulder. It's fine. Issei's eyes widened as he looked at Meliodas and the others who smiled as well. We knew that one day you would go back home, and while it's true that we would miss you, the acts you've done for us and the kingdom shall not be forgotten. You'll always have a place here in Lions, and if you ever do drop by, come look us up. Issei didn't know what to do but smile and laugh before hugging his brotherly figure Meliodas. Thanks, brother. It means a lot hearing it from you. The others were happy for him, and while it would hurt to see a friend leave, they knew he would be fine. Issei stood on the mountain in front of the boar's hat and made sure everything was ready for their departure. He was happy with everything in place as he looked to see Lapis Regina, Easton, Camila, Roxy, Mono, and Gother there with him. They smiled as they looked at the kingdom before heading to the tavern for their departure. Hey. Wait up. Don't leave without us. Issei. Lapis Regina. The group turned to see Jericho, Gila, Naga rushed to them as they panted to catch their breath. Issei was shocked to see the three of them here. Wait, what are you guys doing here? Aren't you a part of the kingdom's holy knights? Jericho and Gila smiled as they explained that Gilthander, Hoser, Griamore, and their apprentices would take over for them and help the next generation, while Naga told him that her mother let her go with him. She knew her mother would do much better after the medicine that Merlin gave her. The portal opened as well to reveal Merlin with Lilia, Valenti, Morrigan, Alice, Melascula, and Derriere. Don't think you're forgetting us. We said we would come with you when you leave heading home, and now's the time to go with you. Issei was surprised until he smiled. Welcome to the team, everyone. The girls smiled as they followed Issei to the tavern, and the dragon gods opened the portal which let Issei tell the giant boar to fly. They flew to the portal, and Issei looked out the window to see the others waving at him, which he smiled as he and the others waved back. The pig flew through the portal, and they encountered a bit of a bumpy ride until the portal opened to reveal a town that was familiar to the dragon. Issei went outside and smiled as he saw the town that he so dearly. I'm home. Kuo Town. The Red Dragon Emperor had returned home to his family. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Nefarious Doctor for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.